The psychedelic jackets.
Ooh. Welcome to the Adam Dunn Show.
Woo, that was an extended version.
This is a special request. We don't want you to smoke genetically modified ganja. We want you to smoke the real thing. We want you to smoke the natural herb. Some call it marijuana.
Cheesy.
Some call it
I love it.
sensibilia. Some call it lamb's bread. And some people call it...
Welcome to another edition of the Adam Dunn Show. I am your host, Adam Dunn.
And I'm your squeaky co-host, Mitch Shinasa.
And for a moment in time, we'll be joined with the kid.
Who's got to go slang some rosin.
Slanging rosin. Rosin slanging.
Sorry about the delay there. We had some weird technical... we had Adam delays and then technical difficulties with live stream that remain inexplicable and resolved themselves when we came up with a solution.
And then I just dropped the connection to the phone that made the song stop. So that was actually
That was awesome.
that was the only man-made incident so
Right.
bad.
We blame you entirely.
For everything.
Blame you entirely.
It's cool though. Used to it.
Cool show. Today we have Tim Blake on the show, who is the main guy from Emerald Cup, which
He's
is
the
turning
founder of Emerald Cup.
founder and is turning into. I'd say the Emerald Cup is turning into the most
Huge.
the most need to be at event more than the other ones.
I've never been.
I know, and neither have I. And I'm
Psyched
going
you're
this
going.
year.
Speak of the devil, is that the man himself?
Well, it says unknown phone number, so let's take it and see who it is.
Hello there. Who we got on the show?
Hi, this is Phoebe. I'm just calling on behalf of Tim just to double check the number.
Oh, good.
Yep,
Well,
that
it
is the
works
number.
perfectly. So we're doing the intros right now, and then we'll have him call back in about 10 minutes. Does that work?
Excellent. Okay, you got it.
Or we can leave him on there. We could also leave you on here. It doesn't matter. We can just
Super staticky. You can just give a call back in 10
give a call back in 10
Perfect.
minutes.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, Taylor. So yeah, Emerald Cup is, like I said, becoming the most sort of need-to-be event just because of the fact that it's in the epicenter of where it really all began as far as our modern cannabis world, and it's California, as anybody who knows, is the epicenter of the outdoor growing scene. And this is mostly light dep and outdoor, and there's no indoor, which is awesome.
It's all organic. It's all sun-grown.
Yeah.
They all have
No
to pass
solvent
their
entries.
pesticide tests and all that
Yeah,
stuff
so
before it can
it's-
even be entered.
It's all these, and the entry numbers are phenomenal.
insane.
Like they did
There's so
900, over 900 entries.
Well, it's
last
crazy because that's not how it started either. I remember when I heard about it after the first year, I was like, that's an interesting little event.
It was
You
small,
know?
and it was definitely very local vibed, and it didn't have this international sort of attention that it's getting now. But now that after next year, 2016 California,
it's going to be the one.
That'll be the one for sure,
Right.
because it's going to be history too. And it's a lot. It's almost like going to Napa Valley. If you're a wine guy, you got to go to Napa because
Right.
that's where it's all at. Same thing for the cannabis people. They all have to be there for that. And I'm looking forward to going to see Rob Clark. Going to see a bunch. There's pretty much everybody's. It's kind of the who's who
You got to stop
Again,
by.
I mean, it's
yeah.
the prestigious event
for
sure.
sure. you
What,
know.
what booth are you going to be? Are you going to be at?
And it's
going to
rain all 3 days. I heard. So
supposed to
it's
rain.
going to be like
That's
typical
good.
typical.
Prestigious.
I mean, how many booths are there?
They
Is
need
there
rain, though.
is it like a cannabis cup style with lots of booths, or is
Oh,
it smaller?
It's
on
a
the booth
fairground. No, it's
so
huge. It's a fairground.
huge.
It's
massive.
huge. It's going to be massive. Well, we'll find out. We're going to talk to Tim. We're going
Yeah.
to get all the details. All
Medicine's
these
going to be there. We'll have his rosin press.
nice. I
There you
We'll
can.
be at booth 57 right by the entrance, I think. So stop by, get some
I
some
will
goodies pressed.
definitely be stopping by.
Yeah.
I'll probably stop by right before I leave and
With all your flowers.
I'll be like, "Hey,
Smash the
can we
trash.
smash the trash?" So yeah, we're going to kind of dedicate most of the show to Tim if we can, if he can hang with us, because he's not just the guy who organizes the events. He's got he just wrote a book.
He did just write a book.
And-
I'll read his whole bio actually. Let's do. I don't really have any news. Do you want
Okay,
news?
good, 'cause I don't really
I
have
mean, if you don't have any
time
news.
for
What,
I
nothing
mean, there are a
happened?
lot of stuff happened this week, but I don't have any
I
prepared.
hit a
We're
deer.
running
That's
late.
about what happened to me.
Oh my god!
Oh, well,
Right,
yeah.
literally
Immediately after last
after
week's
you
show.
left the show,
Right
last
after I
week,
left
right?
this
Well, right
show-
after you left the show, right after the show, we went outside and we were talking about how much you loved your car.
Yes, it was
Minivan,
my beautiful
and I named it
minivan.
Old Gold.
Yes, we gave it a name, titled it, everything.
I think
and
that was
then-
the shortest lived one.
Yeah, it was. And then went to your accountant, so I'm blaming you entirely on this whole
Blaming
thing.
Double D.
Basically Double D accounting owes me a car.
I don't know if that's how
Some
that works.
accounting meeting, right?
No.
Yeah. How
But
do
anyway,
I save money?
It was classic because it was like I've never hit a deer before, and I even thought about it since I've lived here because I've had a few close calls, and I've been like, man, my mom always is like, hey, you better watch out for deer, and I'm like, deer, that's not gonna happen. It can happen, and it definitely can happen because you don't even see it coming. They
Hit a couple deers.
a couple deers?
In
Really?
New Jersey, there's a lot of deer in New
Jersey
Jersey.
deers.
Yeah, I've hit a deer with a minivan. It didn't total it, though.
Oh, man. Well, I totaled mine. So, but it was interesting because it was like the next day, the big thing on Facebook was that cop hitting that deer, and I woke up and the first video I see is the exact same incident that happened to me the day before. I was like, that is exactly how it happens. The deer jumps out, and bam. Except mine didn't run away. Mine laid there, pretty motion.
Pretty fucked up.
But they said you could keep the deer.
They said I could keep the deer.
Did you keep it?
No, they're vegetarians. What are you going to do?
That's right.
Yeah.
Sell that shit though, dude. Seriously. I mean, do you know how much a whole deer if you
That's
chop
what I'm
it
saying.
up, all
My
that
new
venison-
play
slang
is
some-
buying cheap cars, like $100 beaters, hitting deers, selling the deer.
Yeah, that's your new
straight
scam?
come up, man. You're getting a whole deer
No,
for
but
$100
for real,
bucks.
though. I mean, if it was a nice sized deer and you chopped it up, you at least a couple grand off of good
All right.
venison.
Well,
you know?
it
So
was
you
a-
could pay for old gold.
It
That's
was a
what I'm
baby
saying.
buck. It was a baby buck.
Oh, then yeah, fucking kill it. It's dead. So just
What?
get rid of it. It's it's dead. Just like it's
Kill it is
let
dead.
it be
That's
killed.
It? Just 'cause it's
You
a
can't
baby?
eat a baby deer. I
It
mean,
wasn't a baby. It was a baby buck, meaning it
it was a
about
small buck.
twice the weight of me at least, or more. I'd say.
Well,
It's more meat than you could eat.
I don't
It
know.
crushed my
It's-
car. Put it that way.
Yeah, it
me
did
and
crush the
Stefan
car.
just had that conversation. Like, if you were driving to work one day, didn't see a deer on this section of the road, and then came back and like off in the woods, you saw the dead deer. Would you stop and get that deer?
no,
And why
No.
not? But why though? I guess. And then I
because
guess
you don't know how long it's been there.
But no, but it wasn't. No, it wasn't there when you drove to work
Maybe you
that
just
day.
didn't see it.
And it wasn't there.
You
There's
still
no-
feel a pulse.
I guess it's hypothetical,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think you have to drain the
Yeah.
blood in like 15 minutes or
Yeah,
something.
you don't
like
know
that,
how
though.
long it's been there. If it just got hit, if it's still warm,
Right,
maybe.
yeah.
And I tenderized it.
I don't know.
pretty
I
well,
just
too.
love me some venison.
Tenderized by a Honda Odyssey. All right. So, how was your week besides me hitting a deer?
That was kind of the highlight of it for me.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was the highlight of your week.
Hanukkah? No, Hanukkah.
Oh yeah, Hanukkah. How many
Hanukkah.
gifts have you opened up?
I've opened up 3 gifts.
And are they good? Did you know what they were before you opened up?
Like I figured out Cards Against Humanity. I figured out
Oh, yeah.
as soon as it was in my hand.
Yeah. Card Against Humanity.
But that was the only one. The others were surprises.
Cool. You didn't get the Dr. Dre dreidel though. That's the only,
No,
that's-
The Dr.
If someone
Dreidel?
bought me
No.
that, I would be like, "That's really just a disappointing and obvious."
It's
gift.
super disappointing because you're not the dreidel kind of guy.
I didn't know
right?
that was a real thing. The Dr. Dreidel. It's
They
Dr.
put it out
Dreidels,
this
yes.
year.
It's
pretty cool.
hot, man.
What about a mensch on a bench?
Mensch on the bench.
Mensch on a
That was
I
on
don't know.
Shark Tank, but it's like supposed to be like Elf on a Shelf, but
Sure.
for Hanukkah, a mensch on a bench, whatever the fuck that is.
Who the hell's a mensch?
I don't know.
What's a
It's
mensch?
some
Mensch
like
is a good
disgruntled.
person.
Is
but
it?
No,
Yeah.
but he looks disgruntled.
Oh.
Like he's like it's what you
That's a
would consider
disgruntled
to be
person, a mensch?
racist. It's like the standard Jewish-looking person with the curly hair and the hat and dressed in like fully
Yeah.
like Jewish Hanukkah garments, but it's called a mensch on a bench, and he looks really upset. He looks disgruntled. He's a disgruntled mensch
Nice.
on a bench. But Elf on a Shelf's better.
Sure.
It is.
And they're always aggro too. Those little elves.
Yeah,
So, what's
yeah,
your,
yeah.
so how was your week like?
Always dancing. I just made a bunch of hash and stuff.
Made a bunch of hash.
Yeah.
Just made a bunch of hash.
It's the life, you know.
Just made a bunch of hash, and I'm going to go home after next week's show for a couple days, say hi to the family. But
All right. Let's get Tim Blake on the line.
Tim Blake.
Enough of this un-cannabis related.
Look, I'll even be here to answer the Skype call for you, so you
Mensch
don't have
on
to
the
worry
bench.
about it. Mensch on a bench.
I'm
I'm going to get you a mensch on a bench. Yeah, do they have like a mensch yourself app? Like
What?
an elf yourself?
Mensch
like
yourself?
a mensch yourself, and you just sit on a bench?
What?
With curly with
Yeah.
things. Yeah, instantly.
They just put curly cues on the picture of your face. That's really
Yeah,
all they
that'd
do.
be
Oh,
good.
there's probably an app like that.
It must be an app like that.
Mensch yourself. If it hasn't, we need to make it happen.
Ha, someone said, "Did you break your espresso machine, kid?"
What do you mean?
They asked if you have.
Oh,
yeah,
the Espresso Tech.
Espresso
Espresso
Tech.
Tech.
All right, so hold on. Let's backtrack real quick. Espresso Tech.
Is probably hoax.
Yes. I'm good. Am I gonna try it? Fuck yeah, I'm
water,
gonna try it.
hot water is not really known for its
No.
great
So-
capabilities.
So okay,
Well-
so here it is. So it's steam is the way you're really looking at it. So if you're
Right.
doing it right with hot enough water and you maybe modify the espresso
The right
press,
pressure and the right
it'll come out as
temperature.
steam. So it'll kind of do what butane would do when you spray it through. It's as a steam or as a
I mean,
a
supposedly
vapor.
rosin is a micro steam
Steam
distillation.
distillation.
This is a closed encapsulated thing, like a
With
rosin pouch
steam
in your blast. I'm
and
not.
lots of pressure. Could it work? Yes, but I also think that water
It comes out like
is
crumble,
more.
though, right?
Yeah, it comes out.
Well,
like
he said
waxy
he
crumble.
evapped it.
Yeah.
So,
But I would think that it would strip off all the chlorophyll. I mean, it's water. I would
Right,
assume
so
that
it
it would
should
pull
be
a lot
water
of chlorophyll
solid.
out.
That's not
It
a
would
bad thing.
be
no,
be
you pull
green.
it through.
Yeah,
He's
pull
saying it should
through.
pull it.
Oh, you mean
I think it
pull
would
through.
make it green. And I'm gonna try it, but I just don't know. I don't think it's gonna work. We'll see.
We'll see.
I
All right,
doubt it.
why don't I read Tim's bio
There you
to
go.
sort of line him up.
There you go.
Right on. So Tim Blake started using cannabis in 1971. He grew his first outdoor cannabis crop in 1975. He's been a part of the evolution of our industry and culture since then, witnessing every aspect of the incredible journey it's taken us on. He started doing transcendental meditation that same year. Cannabis and meditation have been an integral part of his daily life ever since. Tim was part of starting and ran several production companies in the early 1990s, including a New Age distribution and production company, a rap music label, which featured Bootsy Collins on one CD, and a video and music production studio. He has had properties in Mendocino County since the late 70s, finally moving up for good in 1992. Tim's blessed to have 3 amazing daughters and 6 beautiful grandchildren. In 1998, he created Area 101, a spiritual sanctuary and event center for all faiths, devoted to personal growth and spiritual enlightenment. Over the years, he's produced a wide range of events, including the Emerald Cup. Along with creating the Cup, Tim sponsored and helped produce the first gathering of law enforcement and growers to openly discuss how they would work together. These debates between the sheriff candidates helped get Tom Allman elected as sheriff of Mendocino County. Hundreds of people came forward to participate in these historical debates, which lead the district attorneys coming to Area 101 for debates before the cannabis growers of Mendocino County also. This helped lead the creation of the 931 program, the first of its kind in our country, where cannabis growers could get legal permits to grow organic cannabis from the county. Tim and a partner then created the Mendocino Farmers Collective. MFC is the first collective to bring together outdoor organic growers in Mendocino, creating a way to get products to dispensaries around California, which at that time predominantly featured indoor-grown cannabis. During this time, the Emerald Cup was growing into the event it is today. While the Mendocino Farmers Collective is no longer in operation, Tim has opened Healing Harvest Farms, an organic outdoor collective dispensary at Area 101. So with that intro, I believe we have Tim on the line right now.
Hello, Tim.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, guys.
It's a pleasure to have you, sir.
I know you must be busy right now. This is a crazy time for you, I'm sure, with tomorrow being the opening of the event, I guess.
Well, actually, it's on Saturday.
Oh, it's on Saturday.
We're setting up tomorrow. Saturday, we're opening. We're setting up tomorrow and Friday, but it is like the opening because all the vendors and sponsors and everybody are coming in, so it just starts the whole kickoff.
For you, it's definitely the beginning. That's for sure. You know? Sleepless nights, I'm sure.
Actually, the beginning for us was November 1st because we actually start the contest then. So before we ever get to the event itself, we have 6 weeks of a contest that really taxes us dealing with entries from all over the state.
Yeah, you guys have some... last year when I saw the entries, I was just like, my mouth dropped.
So how many hundreds of entries are there this year?
We had over 700. We thought with charging a $250 fee and then demanding or letting people know that we're going to do full microbial and pesticide testing that we dropped it down to 300 or 400, but we still ended up with over 700.
Yeah, and like last year was I think over 900, right? So that's
it was close. It was right about 900.
Yeah, that's like a job in itself. So obviously you have a whole month to. How many judges are you guys working with all these different varieties? Approximately.
Well, we have over 50 judges, but that's because we have we've added on, of course, the solvents concentrate with the rosin and dry sift, and then we've got medicinals and topicals and edibles. So with all of it, with the CBD and everything, it's close to 60 judges all told.
Sure. I think the hardest one will be the edible judge. I always think that's the toughest one.
That's
man.
Such a hard category.
That's the one where you're like, wow, give me at least 2 months to figure that one out because the recovery times are so much harder.
Last year we had one lady in particular, I won't name her, but she just went after us for about a month after the cup because we ended up with almost 80 edibles, and she was rightfully saying, how could you judge these in 2 weeks? Yeah. And we were like, look, we didn't ever expect to get that many entries, so we did the best we could. We divided it into judges. They were all eating them day and night. They could barely stand up, and we did the very best we could under the circumstances, but rather than call the contest, they felt like they had done an adequate job. So this year we closed up the contest a few days earlier and about a week earlier around most of the different drop-off locations so we get it in for testing. But we still ended up with, over 60 edibles. So it's a challenging job. Next year we're gonna cut the edibles contest off on November 15th, so the judges actually have a month to do that.
Sure.
That's cool, yeah.
Sure. No, it's great to see this event kind of evolve because it's how many years? What is this? How many years have you been doing it now?
This is the 12th year.
12th year.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, it was definitely nowhere near the amount of entries and no more, like it was much smaller, more private kind of event, or? kind of give us a little background?
Yeah, it was. If you would have seen it then, it was my place at Area 101 up here. We had 100-something people. We had, a couple dozen entries. Most people were afraid to show up. If they did, a lot of people were wearing masks. I mean, we were just hoping we didn't get busted for it at that time. And it's grown from there to where we outgrew my place in the Mateel, and we're going to have 20,000 people there this weekend.
Yeah, it's great to hear.
That's huge. And it's all serious people.
I was going to say, and 20,000 real dedicated people, because that's the thing I notice is that it's like, the other cups are sort of like people go and they check them out and stuff.
A lot of looky-loos.
But a lot of lookies, not so much being involved. But it seems like because they have so many entries involved, automatically that 1,000 of those people are, the ones who actually grew the plant themselves, and then all the people around them. And it seems like, you definitely have the quality just by knowing who's going there. Every time I talk to somebody, I'm like, yep, you're going to be there. Okay, well, this is going to be a really high quality event. It's amazing.
We've gone out of our way to ensure that we bring the farmers down and to mix with all the patients and the other product people. And so we do give tickets to all the contestants. Over the last couple of years, all the farmers and former outlaws up here have become comfortable with going down to Sonoma, and they realized it's a really easy place to be at, and it's comfortable to hang out with people. And all the patients, like you said, they come in and realize that they're there with 5,000 different farmers, and so it's unlike the rest of the festivals and cups and stuff, because it really is a wonderful mix of the cannabis farmers and producers up here with all the patients.
Yeah, no, it's and a lot of these people, as you were saying earlier, they might have been nervous to come out back in the day, and once they come and they have a great time, they meet good people, it's then when they're really know that it's worth it, then then they come down in droves, so it's great to see, because that's the thing too. In Amsterdam, it was like always living there, and people during the cups there, it was the one time a year people kind of let their guard down.
Sure.
They're finally somewhere where they're like-minded people and they're not looking over their shoulder. And I mean, I think as it becomes normalized, your event is going to become one of the more to see what's the future of cannabis, technically.
Well, the cool thing about Emerald Cup, I feel like, is like the High Times Cup is like a smoker's cup, and then Emerald Cup's a grower's cup. Mm-hmm. It's definitely the whole focus of the event is in touch with the cultivator. It's a West Coast thing versus an East Coast thing, right? East Coast guys are just smokers, not growers.
That's true. So speaking of, and your growing career started.
Tim, if you've got time for us, we've got quite a long show, and we'd love to kind of lay it all out on the line with you and do a proper, thorough interview.
Sure. Yes, we can keep going.
Good. Yeah. That's what I want to hear. But back in the day when you started growing, was it was it circumstantial, like just happened to be the right place and somebody sort of showed you what's up, or was it you were interested already from a long time before that, like the growing side?
No, I was one of those hyperactive kids. At 13 years old, I found cannabis and started smoking it. My father was a pretty big-time attorney. We're all Silicon Valley family. We had a vacation home in Santa Cruz. We moved over there when I was a freshman in high school, and the barn would went up on the walls, and we were downtown, and all of a sudden all the artists started coming by. My parents started smoking a lot of cannabis and pot, and all of a sudden I started getting joints from all these people, and some of the biggest dealers at the time, they were probably in their early 20s, thought that they hooked me up. Maybe my dad would take care of them or whatever. So here I am in high school getting a kilo, 2 pounds of some Mexican or Thai or whatever, and they've got like 5,000 pounds in their backyard. So that started in high school back in like 71, 72. But then, as a senior in high school in 74, I got a hold of Ed Rosenthal's, his first book, and so people started talking about actually growing cannabis and stuff. So I took some seeds, threw it in the backyard. I seeded the crop. I didn't really know what I was doing, but that was the beginning of it, and that was the first crop. It's probably 40 years ago. And, I've been doing it ever since, although a lot of it's been on the other side of the business because I came out of high school and was kind of raised in the cannabis world. So I've kind of watched the whole industry evolve since the beginning of the 70s up till now.
So back in the early 70s, when you said you were in Santa Cruz, is that what you're saying? You were in the Santa Cruz area?
Yeah, Capitol.
Okay,
Capitol, Santa Cruz.
And did you and because I know reading your bio that you're, doing a lot of meditation to spirituality. Did you hang out at Esalen ever?
I made it down there a couple times, but what I was fortunate to do was, Santa Cruz was really a hub of the emerging spirituality back then. And along with getting into smoking in high school, I came across Transcendental Meditation, which they were doing a lot of classes in Santa Cruz at the time. So I started doing TM then. I've been doing it ever since. It's been, over 40 years of doing that. And then I had an opportunity right when Ram Dass and Bhagavan Das came back with the first book, Be Here Now, to do some meditation classes. I didn't even know who these guys were at the time. It was about 6 months before they really broke, and they were doing a little meditation class up at UC Santa Cruz, and I went up and was meditating with those guys and didn't even know who they were. And, of course, that was kind of a real big thing in Santa Cruz at the time, and so it just came together. I mean, it was kind of the forefront of evolved alternative thinking. Santa Cruz was. I mean, boy, we've been the most liberal voting county outside of San Francisco for the last 40 years. And now Mendocino County has really overtaken that in a lot of ways. But back then, that's where it was happening. So spirituality and cannabis were just going hand in hand all through that time.
Sure. I mean, and that's kind of the original California sort of, before, like now it's a completely different landscape as far as a lot of young kids making extracts and stuff like that. But back in the day, it was definitely more linked towards the, alternative lifestyle, living off the grid, because the reason I asked about Esalen was because my friends were born up in that area, up in Big Sur, and that's kind of like the beginning of my cannabis sort of history is all in that going out to Big Sur and experiencing quality cannabis and then living back in New York, bringing back a bit and just blowing everybody's minds. Like, what is this? You know what I mean? I've never seen anything like this, And I was like, wow, this is what real weed is, And then we were all smoking pressed Thai and Mexi and whatever on the East Coast. And Cali's always had a little more, obviously, connection to the plant and the ability to, and that was when it was literally like that stuff never came off the hill hardly, you know what I mean? That cannabis barely made it to town, but nowadays it's the whole area has been completely changed, and it's like if you go down to the local bar, everybody's about to become the next big Don Juan of cannabis, you know what I mean? So
after these next two crops, because after this crop,
exactly.
Well, they had the Big Sur Holy Weed, which was infamous back then, and I know that in the early '80s when the Thai and Mexican loads were coming in. And we were still getting 100,000-pound loads in 12, 14, 15 times a year. I had a friend come down, and he showed me some unbelievable ganja. I'd never seen anything like it. In fact, everything at the time was going for about 2,000 a pound, and it was going for $4. And people wanted a third of your crop, and you couldn't cut a clone for 2 years to even get the clone. And at the time, I told him he was out of his mind because I had like 1,000 pounds in my backyard. But I bought the cannabis from him because it was the best I'd ever seen. But sure enough, he said that they were going to bust every load in the next 2 years, and they were going to change the whole landscape of cannabis and cocaine in the country. And all the generals and the businesses had seen this, and that the future was going to be growing indoor. At that point, nobody's even growing indoor. And he said, you're going to be growing this bud under lights that you see like in Safeway within 2 years. And I said, you're out of your mind. And then, of course, 2 years later, after they busted about 16, 17 loads on the West Coast, I had to go back and beg for that clone, which became known as the Chronic and the Grease and the Magic. That was the first super pod. And that was really what started the beginnings of the indoor. And then, of course, we took that strain up here, up in Northern California, and gave it everywhere, and it became one of the major the breeding components. But that supposedly came out of Big Sur. It was bred by those guys down there.
Nice.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I know it was definitely a hub at one point because my friends lived up on Partington Ridge, and it was like they had they were the spot, like that's pretty much just, they used to just grow outside the house, no problem. But then after every year they'd have to go deeper, another mile deeper, until they were going like 15 miles in to plant their crops. And then when the feds would come in, they would use my friend's property to do their launches for their helicopters, so they'd be like watching their own crops get dropped off at their own house to be taken off to be processed somewhere else. You know what I mean? It was like disheartening. So they had to kind of quit operations up there in the last few years. And now, of course, it's all.
Yeah, there was
Go ahead.
Yeah, it was a whole different world before Camp and Comet came in, and those first few years at the middle 70s or early 70s when people first started going outdoor, and you could do whatever you wanted because they didn't even have organized law enforcement going after people. But after that came about and the Informed Comment Camp came in, it's been a whole different world for the last 35 years.
Yeah, and I mean, now it's like there's nowhere you can hide. I mean, there's satellites. You can sit there. If I look at like even Google Earth, which is last year's summer, you know, you can go to like Bend, Oregon or something, and pretty much every single house has plants that you can spot from Google Earth. You know what I mean? Of course, it's not going to be real time, but that's not to say that they don't have real time. And of course, I mean, it must be just below their minds because a good percentage of people up there are growing. I mean, more than not.
More than not. Yeah.
Well, what happened was it was a big change because when we came forward with the 9.31 program, which is where you could grow up to 99 plants with permits from law enforcement for a fee, you really weren't seeing a lot of full sun out in the open crops. And then once we started that program, everybody started popping outside. Of course, they busted that program, the lead proponent of that, the second year. They were flying me with choppers. I was kind of the number two guy. He'd just taken more of a public stance. I'd stayed in the background. But we had 12 people the first year in that program. We had almost 100 the second year, and we'd raised over $750,000 and saved all the jobs cuts for all the sheriff's departments and law enforcement. So they were working closely with us. They had 5 other counties in Northern California about to join up in that program. And I told my friends, I said, if they don't do something, the feds right now, they're never going to be able to turn this back because all of Northern California will be growing legally in conjunction with law enforcement. And what are they going to do? So Tom Allman actually had a press conference after they busted Matt Cohen and said he didn't understand any of it because they had done surveillance for them, and it showed them huge cartel grows within miles of this legal 99 plant grow. And why were they busting his grow, which was basically compliant and giving money to the sheriff's department? But their response was to threaten law enforcement, county council, the board of supervisors, and every public official that was involved in issuing one more permit with federal prison sentences. And so that's when Mendocino got to see exactly how the feds play. And, of course, we had to go hide for a couple of years while Colorado and Washington took the forefront and went legal. And if you guys are aware, I mean, at that point, the 8 former heads of the DEA petitioned Obama to negate that vote based upon the United Nations Charter, which he realized he couldn't do that. And then they came after with the banking rules 2 or 3 times, and they finally realized they just weren't going to be able to stop it. And so now they've just had to back up because instead of picking on little counties, they're picking on states that aren't really going to tolerate it.
I mean, yes and no. The to the extent that I don't know where the collaboration is, right? But here in Denver, they find new ways to make it so no one gets rich. That's for sure. Every few months, they manage to. You know, for example, no one can file tax write-offs. That's been the interesting thing in being for-profit is you're running for-profit and you can't file tax write-offs on your business. Like, that's not how retail works. You can't run a business that way. And with the regulations that are put on, obviously some of them are good, but with the new licensing things that they put, the moratoriums, the way they push businesses around, it really... You know, they kind of kick the industry every time it starts to maybe get ahead of itself a bit to bring in new outside investment to change up the culture more and more. But it's very deliberate is the scary thing. And, you know, they say as much at these meetings. We have one correspondent who kind of goes to all the meetings who tells us about all of it. And it's like really shocking how blatant they are about trying to remove cannabis culture from the cannabis industry here in Colorado.
Futile efforts at best,
but they can dilute it. That's what they do. They dilute it.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're diluting the ability to have open commerce. They can't really restrict the access for patients as much because they're not being able to hold that back. And it's the same thing we're going to deal with the legislation here that they just passed in California and with the proposed initiatives, probably the Parker initiative that's going to go through. We have to basically compromise and give them the right to hassle us on the DUIs and do the drug testing on the jobs and do a lot of things that are just really not fair in the mode of compromising so that we can get the legislation or the initiatives passed. And so they do put those roadblocks up every step of the way. I've been telling people for years that when they look back at history, 30 or 40 years from now, and we turn this world around, it's going to be, I believe, principally because of this alternative income that cannabis provided, because they've taken the manufacturing out of this country. They've basically crushed the North American empire in the United States. What would have taken 2 years, they brought us to our knees from zero debt to $20 trillion in debt in one generation. And they really thought they'd kind of, turned us into like in a slave society, but the cannabis people wouldn't back down. And that's why they've really gone after it so hard and so harshly, because it was the one thing they really hadn't figured out. They hadn't really counted on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the thing is that with cannabis, we are all about sort of moving forward together. You know what I mean? Like, we're definitely, there's always going to be groups that come in and don't give a shit about the industry or whatever. But for the most part, it's like, without one, it's not like we have one leader or we have, we're all following somebody's.
We're all doing it for the plant.
We're all doing it because of we're all doing it like, not sleeping at night for this plant. So it's like pretty much I don't think most people understand how dedicated we really are, and that we're definitely not gonna stop doing what we do, because that's the one thing. It's interesting to see when we're like in a state now where it's legal, how it changes the way people perceive stuff. Because back in the day, we kind of had this idea that no one knew what we were doing and we were all undercover and we're being, clandestine about it. And now it's completely obvious and everybody knows what's going on. And so you get your haters, of course, because that's what happens in anything. If you do anything and you become slightly successful, you're going to have a lot of haters. But when it comes to like corporations and all, they're all trying to crack the code, which we all know kind of internally, because that's why we live our life,
Yeah.
And so it's fun to watch these. I like to watch big corps try to come in on our stuff, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like it has a built-in, cannabis always has this built-in security of itself.
You either get it or you don't.
Yeah, and it just has it. It's kind of like the minute you think you're doing good and you pat yourself on the back, the shit goes downhill quick.
Well,
you know what I mean? You're like, oh, don't think you're doing everything perfect, because you're definitely not. You know what I mean? You have to kind of roll with the punches, and that's, I think, out of anybody in any kind of group, marginalized group, cannabis users are probably the most used to being pushed aside. You know what I mean? And so we have no problem with it. You know what I mean? It's not like it's a big deal. We just keep moving forward.
It's what, like...
It's an
Sorry, go ahead.
We've had a very tenacious group of people that have refused to stand down, and you look at it over the years, the heroes that are out there, Eddie Lepp and Roger Christie, Pebbles Triple, all these people that just refuse to back down, all the people who have done prison time for cannabis. I acknowledge all the activists and stuff, but it's all the people in the trenches that have been fighting for it and refusing to give up their medicine over the last 40 years that have really kept this thing going. And you do see big business coming in very quickly in California. It's amazing how fast they see it. It's a little different than you guys in Colorado and Washington, because you guys didn't have the built-in industries. You guys weren't doing $10 billion a year. Even
right.
now,
Yeah.
Colorado and Washington are only 15th of what we are. I heard that Colorado was 1/4 of the business of L.A.
Yeah.
So we're so huge and we're such an established world. I see these distribution companies coming in now that we're working with. I've been telling people it's going to be a whole different world in 2 years. We're going to pass an initiative this year. We're going to legalize in California, and it's going to go from 10 to 15 billion a year to 30 or 40 billion a year. And and that's what they realize. Once California goes legal, they'll have to back up even another 10 notches, because the whole country's going to fall.
Yeah. And once California goes, and I've been saying it here in Colorado, like, Colorado's only something right now because it's not time in California yet. No one's going to want to come to Colorado when they can go to California.
Just for ski season, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But I think that's fluffed up, man. California has the infrastructure, has the industry, just needs the legal structure to operate like real businesses, and the money's there. Everything's there for it to work in California. The population's there, dude.
No, yeah, that's the thing. Like you were just saying, L.A. County is the biggest consumer place for cannabis probably in America. When it comes to just the volume of people that smoke, and they're all. It's not like a new thing for anybody.
They got money.
They got expendable income. They're ready to do it. And so it's. Yeah, obviously, once that kicks in, which we all know it's going to, then it is going to push the buttons of everybody to, like, say, you know what? Now we have the East Coast, we have the West Coast, we got the middle. Really, it's just pockets in between now that we have to clear up, and it will. And the key and the main thing is California. The minute it gets federally accepted, there's no competition, because of they have the agricultural background that we just don't have.
They just don't have the water.
They just don't have the water. That's the next fight. How's it been with that situation for you guys with this whole drought and obviously, of course, it's drought until you do your event and then it rains 3 days in a row.
There
Right?
you go. You guys made the rain come.
Yeah, but how's it been up there with this year with the crops and stuff? A lot of people predicted that there'd be huge price spikes and that the quality would go down because of all the fires and the combination of fires and then the lack of water. Did you notice that at all?
No, we thought that might happen, but basically they might have taken out 1 out of 10 of the crops through fires or through busts, but then the rest of the people grew 50% more.
Yeah.
And you got people doing a lot of water diverging stuff, but you also have a lot of people like myself that have got wells or big catchment ponds, and so we're learning how to catch the rainwater. We're learning how to get the wells in like the rest of the farmers. And even though we do have a serious drought here, and even with La Nina or El Nino, there's still not the kind of water we hoped for. I think we're going to do okay for the next few years. What we can produce here, I mean, if you look at what the grapes take, all the vineyards take, and all the rest of agriculture, they're going to be tearing up all those vineyards to put in cannabis as it goes legal, because they're making $3,000 or $4,000 on an acre for vineyards, and you put an acre of cannabis in, and you're going to be making $200,000 or $300,000.
Sure.
So
yeah. No. And numbers. Yeah. I can see
huge.
that. I can see that definitely transferring quickly.
It's going to go. And then, the thing about it is that, like you said, when people come in from Japan and people come in from Europe, they know that the best bud in the world right now, all the breeders in Europe, they're coming over here, not from going to Spain, they're coming over here in Northern California to find the strains and find the best bud, because that's where it is.
Yeah.
And you've got these farmers that have been doing it for 40 or 50 years and got their chops down, and people will catch up. But because we're the breadbasket of agriculture in this country and the world, and because we have that 30-year head start as far as expertise, the farmers here are going to do good. I tell them, as long as you grow a good product, you get a good organic medicine, and you're willing to see the price breaks come down somewhat, you're going to be fine for the next several years.
Yeah. On that note, let's take a moment to shout out our sponsors. If you can hang on the line with us, Tim, we'll continue in just a couple moments here.
Quick.
Sure.
All right. First and foremost,
Big shout out to Way to Grow.
Exactly. Way to Grow, our number one sponsor from the beginning, keeping us going on the show. They got 7 locations. My favorite would be the Platte River, of course. 1051 Platte River. They have the Concentrate Corner there. Notice that they also have ovens at some of the other locations.
Yeah. But Concentrate Corner's got a much wider selection.
Exactly.
But they have, the
Cascade ovens and stuff. I noticed at the other one. But also, what's their sale going on now? They had the...
I'm
look it up.
slacking
Look it up. But again, 7 locations. Silverthorne, the latest one up in the mountains there. So you don't have to drive all the way back down, especially when the season kicks in, because you may not get home again. And they're having the
And right now they're doing the Marion Bright sale. It's on the LECs.
Exactly.
Speaking of indoor growing, great deal on these ceramic metal halides. We love these.
Yeah, I've been. I just harvested a bubblegum chem cross with that, and beautiful. I mean, that's one thing about it. It definitely, with those LECs, they bring out the brightness of your plant. Like, everything's really just robust,
vivid, yeah,
super vivid.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is all month long. They've got 315s in, depending if you have a 120 or 240. Obviously, a little cheaper on the 240s, and also cheaper to run. So if you haven't changed over, always run your lights at 240. That's recommendation.
Pro tip,
recommendation. And
mention the Adam Dunn Show account on checkout
for 25% off.
Store. Yeah, get 25% off. That's,
and of course, grab some candy for the kid.
Yeah, there you go. Speaking of candy,
our other second number one sponsor. I guess you can have 2 number one sponsors. Is that possible?
We'll call it 1B.
1B.
Incredibles Edibles.
Number one edibles here in Colorado and soon to be nationwide. I heard they're in Vegas now, coming. That's
awesome. Are they bringing the whole product line there?
I think they are.
That's awesome. Well, then, soon to be in Las Vegas. Vegas is a good place for Incredibles, honestly. Vegas and edibles goes well together to me. I don't know why. I know it's opposite for some people, but Affogato Bar might be good for Vegas with a little coffee in it. Of course, the Fireberry.
Yeah.
The habanero raspberry, right?
They got the Mile Higher mint now, too.
500 milligrams THC.
So they're kicking it.
Yeah.
Strawberry Crunch, I tried that the other day.
Strawberry Crunch is great, right?
Awesome. Yes.
The Flax Crispies in
and
there.
And the Pumpkin Pie Delight.
I haven't had it yet.
Fucking mind-blowing.
I gotta get it. I gotta get it. I have my temporary ID, so I can't shop right now.
No.
I gotta get my real license so I can go get one. Anyway, you can check them out, IncrediblesColorado.com.
Go on to their site, and they have a store locator.
And then you can find out where you can get them. That's what I'm going to do.
Shouldn't be too hard. They're definitely in lots of shops in Colorado.
Of course, big shout out to our good friends at Build a Soil.
Jeremy.
Jeremy, just expanding locations. If you're doing organics, if you're thinking about trying to do organics, if you're trying to think about
Thinking about trying to think about.
Thinking about trying to think about. If you're thinking about trying to think about some sub-irrigated planters, they've got a new mix too that's comparable to Pro Mix, but a little better sourced, higher quality materials. They're doing a lot of stuff beyond just the living soil thing. That's all sort of compatibly themed. And I'm really liking some of the new products they're getting up there. It looks like they're going to start stocking the OSA 28. Obviously, they're still our favorite source for the Ahimsa neem oil. Just everything's top quality with Jeremy, and of course, you can always get a hold of him, and he'll walk you through whatever you're facing. You can contact him right through buildasoil.com.
Boom.
Big shout out, of course, to Dark Horse Genetics. Check them out right now. They still have a few packs of archive seeds left.
I ran through those pretty quick.
Yeah,
good.
That was big. That was a big drop that we kind of had held back for a while. Private stock from the pop-up seed bank that was released to Ja Farm. So you can go to Ja Farm and pick up those not discontinued but limited edition archive seed bank packs. I think there's a lot of fire still left on there, and you get them right now. Also, those Dark Horse hoodlums.
Got a few left.
They are fucking awesome.
And they're moving.
They're moving. They're great.
Yeah.
They're great hoodies.
Can't say enough good things about Hoodlum. Of course.
Of course, big shout out to Elite Cannabis and Mary's Medicinals, marysnutritionals.com. Once again, these are a trusted source of CBD that will ship to patients nationwide with some restrictions. Go to marysnutritionals.com. I'm not just saying this is a trusted source. This is a farm that we've been to many times. This is a processing center we've been to. These are people
going there today.
Know. Adam's on his way up there. These are people who've helped people we've known. These are people who we know have helped people we don't know. They can help people for you. marysnutritionals.com. You can order CBD in multiple forms.
Anywhere in America except
the Western District of Pennsylvania and Florida, I believe. But maybe there are others. You'll find out.
Yeah, you'll find out.
You'll find out. They'll let you know.
Check your local.
Local laws may apply or something. But they'll ship it. And you can buy it online, and it's the same price as it is in stores here, and you don't pay the 25% sales tax we do here in Colorado. And with that said, that's the lineup. We're here with Tim Blake, founder of the Emerald Cup, talking about his history growing and growing with the cannabis scene in Northern California since the 70s. So, Tim, you were talking about this year and seeing cannabis as a viable alternative for a lot of grape growers because it's more efficient with water use.
Yeah, well, it's far more efficient with water use, and I mean, I haven't seen any big vineyards move over yet, but with this new legislation that got passed, on the medicinal side, you're going to be able to grow almost an acre on a piece of land, and with the Parker initiative, they just agreed they were going to open it up for anything up to any size, 5,000-acre farms. The small farmers of California have really pressed them to be fair with us, and so they've now changed their initiative language to bring it down to the same as the state guidelines, where nothing for the next 5 years would be over 1 acre. But if you're a vineyard or if you're one of these properties that have large holdings, how many 1 acre pieces? I had a guy from Monterey come up, said he had 39,000 acres, and he wanted to know how many 1 acre pieces I wanted to grow on. And that's when I realized, well, there's going to be some large farms coming into California, and there's going to be some price drops, and you're going to see this over the next couple of years because the medical legislation is going to go in 18, and this initiative would go in before that. So
right.
Not only the vineyards, but a lot of farmers across California are looking at it very lucratively going into cannabis farming.
So that's where we're at now. But, of course, you've been along for the ride on the crazy road to get here, and that's something we want to kind of segue into. And then I want to talk a little bit about the Emerald Cup, and, of course, I want to talk about your new book, but we still got plenty of time. But let's talk about sort of where the crazy ride you've taken along the cannabis growing underground up there in NorCal.
Well, like I said, I started in the early 70s. I came up here in the early 90s. I've been up here for the last 25 years, and we were doing big generator grows, indoor grows at the very beginning because you couldn't do outdoors, and that evolved over the years to where you could actually come out and do it in full sun. But like everybody else, you have a couple of years of getting ripped off and a couple of years of getting busted, and you're just hanging on tenaciously and going forward. So I've seen it all over the last 45 years. At this point now, after being part of the 9.31 program and seeing people being able to grow legally out in full sun, 200 to 1,000-pound crops. It's a whole different world. And so now it's about the quality. We finally got a chance to compete with indoor. I mean, indoor's there because we couldn't grow outdoor. Otherwise, there's no other agricultural crop that really is being grown indoor. And I think in your neck of the woods and in some northern states, you'll still see some of the indoor and niche market. But for the most part out here in California, you're going to see more and more outdoor, really incredible sun-grown cannabis. And so for farmers up here, it's a brave new world. And I tell them all, they've got to brand themselves. They've got to really become, sustainable farmers. They've got to get their organic nature. Fish and game, the water resource boards are all coming in now and making people permit all their farms. And so it's gone from me trying to get people to come to the Emerald Cup to getting them to sign up for these legal programs to grow, to where it's like now I'm telling them, look, it's now or never for you guys. You got to come in here and you got to get permitted with your water, and you've got to come out from hiding, and you've got to get all your permits for your roads and your houses and whatnot, and become legal growers. And then you got to find legal distribution because the black market's going to dry up over the next few years as it becomes legal across the country and every other state. Look what Michigan's doing, Colorado, Washington, Oregon. And so it's changing very rapidly, and that's what we try to do at the Emerald Cup, is teach these people how fast it's changing, how they don't have to be afraid of it. They can embrace it, and it can be a really fun thing because instead of hiding out and wondering when somebody's going to come get them, they can start figuring out how to do tax deductions and pay their taxes.
So, yeah. Tim, do you find any resistance on that from people sort of hanging on to the old ways?
When I did the first sheriff's debate with Tom Almond, I had Pebbles Trippett come to me and asked if I'd sponsor the debates. I got a 150-acre campground kind of at the base of Spy Rock, the Emerald Triangle, and I said I would. I've got uncles and brother-in-laws that are in law enforcement, and I tell people, the first time you get robbed or you have people coming after you, it's not your neighbors you're calling, it's the cops. And, and the cops aren't all bad. There's bad cops, sure, but when you want protection, they're going to need to be there. And so I got death threats when I did that. I was told that if I came up on Spy Rock, they'd bury me, that I was ruining the old ways. So, yeah, starting with the Emerald Cup and going through the 9.31 program, I have been, chastised and threatened all the way along that I was ruining a way of life. Although it's funny now, these same farmers that can grow out in full sun, I haven't seen them all come back and say thanks that now they don't have to hide under the woods anymore and grow indoor. They can get back in the full sun. So, but they all know it, and so I don't worry about that. But yeah, it has been a real process to drag people into the light, and it's happening so quickly. Now they realize that they have to, or they're going to be in the shadows, and that's not where they want to be.
Yeah, no, and I know plenty of growers in California, same situation. I mean, they're kind of like, a lot of them are at their age, they're in their mid-60s or so, and they're kind of like, what do I do now? What am I going to do? I can't, and it's like you guys have to, people have to adapt, you know what I mean? And part of that is, I mean, if you happen to live in NorCal and you're just, first of all, you're lucky as hell because you're in a great spot for growing cannabis regardless of, and legality or not, just condition-wise. The climate is awesome. So be thankful on that. And then I see it as being like, just like it is when you go on a wine tour now. I mean, you cruise around, and those farms that have the vineyards that have become successful, they probably struggled just as hard as cannabis growers back in the day, especially when trying to establish their original rootstock and stuff, and probably lost money along the beginning side. And and I'm sure it's the people who had the tenacity to stay there. And now all of a sudden they're part of a, like you get off, you fly into San Francisco, you rent your car and you start driving north and you hit all these vineyards. And if they got good wine and they got good, they got good practices, they're probably doing great. But if they, back in the day were kind of cutting corners and doing stuff kind of shady and not, doing things properly, well, they probably didn't make it to this point. And now the ability to be part of that tour, let's say, is already like something that people should take their, just make their places more welcoming and less of a clandestine operation,
Oh yeah, it's funny. They nobody wanted to come out and be in public. They all said, "You go do it," and now they all want their 15 minutes of fame. They all want to tell their stories because you got all these, primarily males, because it was kind of an outlaw, a dangerous world, so you didn't have as many females. And it's wonderful to see all the female presence coming in now. But now they all want to come out and tell their stories because they've been doing it for 30 or 40 years, and they've got their strains and their lineages and their own tales to tell. And just like the vineyard people, like you said, I know all those vineyards that are up and down this coast, and they weren't making big money. Nobody even talks about California wine until about 10 years ago when they did that amazing campaign, it was all, French wines. And now who talks about French wine?
Right.
Very few Californians.
And if you go to a liquor store here, it's the wine has become a whole new thing again. Like it's kind of a renaissance with a lot of people, where people finally like, oh, really? It's like this is the whole industry right there, my friend. And very much comparable,
Yeah, but it's really great to see all the desire for people to come out in the open. You know what? Most of us up here, we just want to pay our taxes. We just want to not be the black sheep of the family. We want to be proud of what we do, and we are proud of what we do. But we've, been marginalized by society and by the promotional campaigns of the DEA and the Justice Department, demonizing us. And you go back, all the way back to when they were doing it against Afro-Americans and Hispanics in the 30s.
Yeah. Oh,
if you look at it, so it's always been that way.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other cool piece about that I always say, kind of like touching on what we were at before, is like, how much are we like in love with this plant or potentially controlled by this plant? Like, yeah, we went up against the most powerful law enforcement and military forces in the modern world for this, for no one's getting stinking rich, no one's getting. It's because we love it.
And the people who did make a lot of money, their lives were hell because to keep all the people at bay and have if you're making, because I think the big difference was that back in the day when there was a lot of smuggling going on, it was just like you said, like 1.2 million pounds of cannabis coming into the West Coast. Then people were making money because they just coordinated everything and made it work. They weren't doing the actual growing side because those countries that were doing the growing
they weren't making money.
They weren't making any money.
They weren't making money.
Those people weren't getting paid good at all, and it was serious grind work. And so to bring that, and there's no other industry out there that Americans are really going above and beyond with the, to do any kind of physical labor of any sort. But when it comes to cannabis, we have to because there's no one else to do the job right now. So it's interesting to see.
But those people that were doing, back then were also looking at 10 to 15-year prison sentences for hauling those loads in, too.
Right, exactly.
So people were making a lot of money, but it's just that same thing, risk factor versus dollars.
What could you spend your money on? They couldn't really spend their money on things that would get them busted, obviously, so they ended up wasting it. Food and alcohol and drugs and other things and things that they couldn't trace. So yeah, it was like kind of a burden if you have all this money, but you can't really flex with it at all, And if you do, everyone knows what you're doing, and So it's like, so yeah, I think it's been from the outside looking in, everybody always thinks that cannabis people are just crushing it, making so much money. We're loaded. We don't pay any taxes. We're just hand over
especially
fist.
If you're in the legal business. Then if you're in Denver, you're in Canada.
Yeah. Well, now it's turned into and now it's literally because to own a business here in Colorado, you have to have spent, $500,000 or more just to get to the starting line, to get to the starting line to start making money. So people automatically assume, well, if you had $500,000, you must be rich, not realizing that you probably tapped everybody around you. You know what I mean?
You're $500,000 in debt,
and you can't get money from the bank, and you have to do it all personal loans, and it's all So I think that the people looking at the industry have always thought we're doing better than we're doing, and we've on the inside have always been I know myself and my family, and I'm sure everybody with their own family has that moment in time where they're like, this is not working, you know what I mean? Sure. And you're like, I know it's not working, but it's because we have to keep moving forward.
We're not at the place where it works yet.
Yeah, and it's the same for everybody. And I think I've seen it with, anytime you think somebody's doing good, there's a lot behind the scene that you don't know what's going on, and it's usually not the same story.
Sure.
Speaking of which, we heard a story, I guess are we going to talk about the book now a little bit? Because that's something I haven't even gotten into that. But
I want to do Emerald Cup first, and then the book, because that's the most. Or do you want to do book first? Let's do book first because Emerald Cup is the most current thing. So
exactly, we'll round it out at the Emerald Cup because there was a story that one of our friends said he wanted to hear from you about. I think it was about being tied up, and there was something along those lines, wasn't it? There was some robbery or something. Did you have some?
Oh, Nick Vitus.
Nick Vitus wanted to hear some story. Is that ringing a bell for you, Tim?
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, there was a story I told somebody. It's going to actually be in the second book. I'm doing a trilogy right now. That the first one's from 25 years back, but I was dealing with a guy named the Antichrist, Mike Wagner, and he was one of the main enforcers for the Hells Angels for a long time. He was known. Mad Mike and the Antichrist, and he'd set us up. I tried to help these friends do a festival at his property. He had us move in there, and he had the place wired. He knew exactly what we were doing. He was so far beyond us. This guy was a mastermind. He had 6 different machines, these $2,000 machines. He'd hook up your phones, and then he'd sit at this place and listen to everybody's phones, and he'd be setting up, extortions or robberies or mayhem and stuff. And he set us up. He spent the whole year setting us up, and just through a series of weird circumstances, I ended up being at the place one night. All my partners had left. We had 3 or 4 people guarding something, but somebody had to go for a wedding, and somebody had to go here, and somebody had to go there, and my driver coming in couldn't make it. And I just ended up being at this place, and we'd known that he had these 3 Aryan guys that were getting ready to set us up, and so I couldn't leave because I had too much product, and back then you didn't drive around product or do things. It was too dangerous. So my friend came in the door. It was his 30th birthday, and he looks at me, he's got this new bong, and he said, why are you sitting there on this bed with this gun? And I said, well, I'm waiting to get robbed. I said, it's just a perfect story where it's like everybody's gone. I'm the only one here. And I got, a couple $100,000 worth of product, and it just doesn't feel right. And so he took some clones up to the top and came back down to hit his new bong. Before he could even take a hit, 3 guys kicked that door in with all black, blackout stuff, vest, tops, everything. Mini 14s. They looked at me. I looked at my gun. Luckily, I was standing up, and this guy had come in because I wasn't anywhere near that gun. I looked at the gun. They saw the gun. They saw him. They were smart. They took stock of what was going on. I jumped behind this wall. I wasn't very smart. They probably could have blown me away right then. I jumped behind the wall, and they went over to him and basically cracked that bong over his head and beat him senseless, basically almost to death, while I was loading up this 38 in my back room. And I wasn't thinking right. I was loading up this, 38 with 7 nights of shells, and they got 3 mini 14s. And so I finally came to and realized I was not going to take these guys on. And so they came around the corner slowly but surely, and I raised my hands up. I should have said I surrendered because I'm surprised they didn't shoot me again. And the guy in the front was this guy that was working for Mike, and I recognized him and called his name out, and then he realized I wasn't supposed to be there. And then he realized that I knew who he was. The other guy jumped in front, tied me up with a Levi jacket and duct taped me, put me in the bathtub. They were sitting there then planning on murdering me because they thought my friend was dead. So they drug him into the bathroom, and they were talking about how they're going to have to take me outside because they didn't want to get blood all over them, and how they didn't want to make a mess. And so I'm listening to these guys plan my murder as I'm tied up, and I'll never let anybody tie me up again. I'll tell you what, I'll die first before I do that. I have claustrophobia about that. But so I'm screaming that, but my friend's not dead. My friend's not dead. And somehow in the middle of this, he comes to and realizes somewhat what's going on, and he's like, I'm not dead. And so they realized at that point they didn't have to murder me.
Wow.
I started going back and forth with this guy at that point, telling him, that they didn't have to take the whole crop. They could just, they had all of it, just leave us a couple pounds. I mean, I wasn't making sense and stuff, and he's laughing at me. And then I started giving him some shit because I started feeling a little full of myself. And then he explained to me that he just got out of prison a couple of years ago, and he'd raped people like me, and that he was just going to basically fuck me there on the spot. He started basically getting ready to do just that. And then I realized that it had really gone from one thing to like now I was going to encounter deliverance. And I was, even more terrified, thinking what I'd done to myself. And then these guys that were his bosses came through and whispered something in his ears. They basically realized they didn't have time for any of this. They had gotten the score they needed. And looked at me and said, you're lucky I didn't have 10 minutes more, I would have done you right. And basically left. And I laid down in that bathtub exhausted and drained with Marv outside of it. There was a little scene in between that where this idiot had put Marv on top of me. They realized Marv was alive, so he wanted Marv to get on top of me in this bathtub. And I told him he's crazy. That's what started it. I said, you've already got us. You don't need to have him do this. Puts a 220-pound man on top of me while I'm hogtied in the bathtub, so I can't breathe. And so I'm screaming bloody murder, and that's when the guy came in the first time and told this guy, what are you doing? So he pulled Marv out, and that's when I started giving him shit about this, and that's when he started talking deliverance. And
Wow.
they ended up leaving. The story went on from there. I ended up being really tortured by that guy for another 2 years. That's going to be basically what the second book kind of starts with. That's kind of the beginning story of that. But I ended up going after this guy for 2 years, this Antichrist crazy dude that had tortured people up here forever. A very infamous guy. And he finally died. He became a snitch. The Hells Angels nobody was really sure whether the Hells Angels did him in or the feds, because he'd become a snitch and was turning people in. And then he was basically electrocuting people, hooking them up to batteries, and doing things that nobody could deal with him anymore. So nobody knows who did him, but he finally died, and I didn't, and not that I ever beat this guy because he tortured the crap out of me for a couple more years, but I out-survived him.
Wow, that's the thing is people, quickly forget that how unprotected we were in this industry. You know what I mean? And now it's kind of like when I first moved to Holland, and like I got my place broken into. And was like, "Ooh, what do I do? Do I go to the cops or not?" And they're like, "Yeah, you should go to the cops. Tell them." And it was like, that's just so out of my realm. You know what I mean? I'd be like, "No, I can't. I didn't do it in the end just because I couldn't get myself to go down there and say." But they're like, "Yeah, sure, you could." I mean, it was just such a different mentality. And now, there's been robberies here in Colorado, not to the extent that they didn't really go very far because most people didn't
it's like
get
just robbing a retail store.
Well, it's also because the dispensaries, unless you rob them during the daytime when they're there, everything's locked up in a giant fucking safe anyway, and it's all under camera. So most people don't get anything. They steal a few pounds of weed or whatever they can grab, and that's about it. But nobody's going to not report that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It has to be reported, and it's just a normal thing now. But yeah, it sounds like that was a crazy event right there, and that's I'm sure I
didn't sleep right for about 3 or 4 years after that. I woke up with the sweats, and it was a pretty. I understand what people go through with PTSD and whatnot.
That is PTSD.
Things like that, it can emotionally traumatize you.
For sure. What happened to the guy that got hurt in the end? Is he still alive or community?
He was traumatized for about 3 years. He went. In fact, the funny part of that story as it goes on is that Mike liked it so much. This was a sadistic person. He calls us the next day and wants to help us find the people that did this. So he's on the phone. My friend has run off to get medical help. They've taken him out that night, taken him out of the county, but he told the cops where it had happened. So they called me up wanting to investigate this attempted murder. And so I've got the cop on the line. I got Mike on hold on the other line. And I'm like, Mike, hold on a minute. I got the sheriff's on the other line. And then I'm telling the sheriff, the guy's like, okay, what's going on with this? And I'm saying, of course, I don't know what you're talking about. This didn't happen. My friend was delirious. I think it happened down the road. And I said, hold on a minute. And I'm on the phone with Mike, and I'm saying, Mike, you did it now. The sheriffs are coming up here. You hurt the wrong guy, and there's nothing I can do about it. He's like, really? And I'm like, so I got these 2 phone calls going at the same time telling the cops that I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
And Mike, that he's in for it. And that was the beginning of about a 2-year battle with him. My friend did not come near Mendocino County for 3 years until Mike died. He was even more traumatized, and he's okay now. But he didn't live in these mountains until Mike died. And then most people, it's kind of the wicked witch of the east. Until Mike died, people were traumatized. He'd been torturing people up here for about 30 years.
Wow. Well, then, and to top it off, he never got to even smoke out of that bong. That's terrible. I got a brand new bong, and I never got to try it. Smashed on my head. That's terrible.
On his 30th birthday. Yeah.
On his birthday, dude. Just to top it off.
Sliced into pieces with this thing.
Damn, that guy deserves a new bong.
Sure, Adam. That'll make it all right.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. So there were obviously it wasn't all. Thanks, Nick Vitus, for opening that can of worms.
Yeah,
that got dark. There were good times too, though. Obviously, that's why you hung in, right? Like.
Oh yeah, I mean, there was I look back on it. I'm proud of what I've done and where I've been. The 9.31 program, all this activist stuff, getting Tom Allman elected, helping fight for the legalization efforts. Being an outlaw all those years. There was a lot of wonderful moments, and I wouldn't change a thing. Even that moment with Mike. Everything's a lesson in life. You learn from everything, and I learned quite a bit from that. A lot of wisdom that came out of that. So, it was a dark moment, but for the most part, most of us living under the umbrella of an illegal industry all those years, we did have a tough life. We were always fearful of being hunted down. We had to live with our families, not being able to tell anybody what we did, not being able to spend money, like you said, because of the whole taxation thing. I mean, it was a tough way to live. I mean, if you talk to anybody that's my age, we would have gladly paid taxes and just done it out in the open if we could have. But we couldn't. We're here today. It's a brave new world. It's a wonderful time for everybody, and all these younger people get the benefit of what we've done so that they can do it in a way that they don't have to deal with those kinds of issues.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, hopefully we're doing our part to help let them be aware of it, make them aware of it. Because I think to a large part it goes, it's something I'm excited to see the heritage represented in cannabis, in the branding and things like that as it goes out to California. Because we don't get it here in Colorado. No one's really no one's really connecting and letting people know what's been going on for the past 30 years.
Yeah. Like we always say, Mitch and I are always talking about our kids. Like our kids are going to grow up and they're going to read about the history of cannabis and be like, wow, you had to, what did you do? How did you do this? You know what I mean? And it's like such a mystery. Even when I lived in Holland, a lot of the young Dutch kids were like going to America for the first time when they were, say, 17 or 18. Like, what do I do? How do I get weed when I get there? And I'm like, you just gotta like start looking around. It's just like the old school. Like, wait, how do you do this? They couldn't get their head around it because they could go to a store their whole entire life. And I think that's going to be the obvious future of America too. Is that there'll be a cannabis store in every town, and people just will wonder. They'll be like, then they'll 20 years from now they'll be like, really? How did you do that?
We'll do HBO series about it or something.
How to score weed back in the day. I always tell everybody the people who made the most money off of weed back in the day were probably the telephone company, because people called so many people to try to score weed and they had to pay for those calls back in the day. It wasn't like a one rate for everything.
Right.
And then, gas, because I used to drive like 200 miles for an ounce of weed sometimes, and it was such a shitty ounce that I would end up buying it anyway because I drove 200 miles. You know what I mean? Like, God damn it, So, yeah, back in the day, it was like a lot different than people even, comprehend. Because now it's like everything's at Facebook post away or, internet. You can already experience the place before you've ever even been there.
I did a virtual tour.
Yeah, I did a virtual
shelf tour.
Exactly.
So let's talk about Emerald Cup, man. You started that. What was the goal when you started it? What was your intention? You had this idea. You just want to smoke a bunch of weed. What was the plan?
Well, I grew up like most people going to the not cannabis, but the country fairs throughout, California. And I loved the sights and the sounds and the smells. And it was kind of like, why don't we, do that for cannabis? Why can't we have that for cannabis? That whole black sheep of the family thing. So we decided just not to stand down and do an event at one and have that celebration with a friendly competition. And so we did. A couple hundred people came, and we had a couple dozen entries, and it was a wonderful moment. John Trudell, who just recently passed, he was the headliner that night. He came in and played for us, and it felt like we were getting away with something because we were doing something that up until that time was just not allowed, and we were really proud of that. And over the years, it just grew and grew, and we started adding on the workshops and the speakers coming in, and moved the Mateo up in Garberville to do a bigger show, and it just got bigger and bigger. John Vergados from Skunk Magazine, a good friend who's under arrest. He's been pressed with charges for basically being one of the largest seed dealers in the world. He's going to be in court on December 11th. Even though it's going legal there, they're still charging him. And he came in and said, I've been to this place and I helped with this show, and I really see that the Emerald Cup could be that if you'd move it out of the triangle to a bigger place. And I didn't know what Spannabis was at the time, but he said, this thing called Spannabis, I see that the Emerald Cup could be that, even bigger, because you're in Northern California where it's even more relevant than Spannabis. And that's what we did. He talked me into going down to Santa Rosa. The Santa Rosa Fairgrounds, Sonoma County folks down there took a flyer on us. We made a 20-page proposal about putting on a cannabis country fair there. And they said, if you'll do that, we'll take the heat and we'll let you come down here. And if you put on a real, country fair feel, which is all organic food and, good music and, a real nice environment for people to come in and feel comfortable with, we'll front you guys. And they've done that, and we've been there. It's our third year. They've already given us our date for next year. They kicked High Times out because they didn't like the feel of that show. They won't let them come back. And they said, we want you to be the show. And, of course, Sonoma County is the forefront. They're the largest place in the country for tourism, for vineyards, for bike racing, for breweries, microbreweries, Lagunitas, largest in the country, small brewery. And they're very forward-thinking people. I used to drive by Sonoma County all those years and think, it was just a ball-hunk place. But now I've come to really respect that and respect the people down there, realize they do just as much farming down there. And, I love the place. So I've fallen in love with the people and the fairgrounds and the show, and everybody likes coming there because it does feel like you're at a county fair.
Yeah.
And so this year we'll have 300-something booths. We'll have 24 organic food vendors. I tell people, there isn't a place you can go, I don't know of anywhere really in the country, that has that many organic food vendors where every bit of food on that property is going to be organic. We have to pay like $15,000 so that the fairgrounds doesn't sell Lay's potato chips and hot dogs.
Nice.
And so it's really nice. And so people come in and they get to see the farmers, they get to see the culture, they get all the speakers and stages and the music, and it's a wonderful event.
No, and it's good. It's a great fairground too.
You've been there?
Yeah, I've been there before, and it's definitely a perfect environment for
Proper,
it.
like,
Yeah,
county fair vibe.
That's exactly
yeah.
what you want.
Now, do you pull a lot of just tourists and locals, I should say, like not necessarily cannabis industry folk as well?
Yeah, we go to a lot of effort in marketing to invite people that aren't in the industry to come in and feel what's going on, to come in and learn and get educated, because with the medicinal aspects coming in, every family's got somebody that needs cannabis for medicine, even if they're not looking at it for adult use, to get high. And so we really do a lot of advertising outside the traditional markets because we want a mix of everybody. So when you go down there, it really feels like that. You look around, you got people from all over the country. You got, straight people. You've got, all the farmers. You've got all the patients. And so it's a great mix of, it's kind of Americana.
Is it like a family-friendly vibe?
Yeah, it's got a family-friendly vibe, and it's going to be what cannabis evolves into as people realize it's safe to do and there's nothing wrong with it, and they don't have to worry about it anymore. It's going to become mainstream America, and that's kind of what we're doing. We're leading the way into that.
Yeah, I think once we always say, like, when it's like farming, like, because it's farming. When it becomes farming, like all other farming, that means it's where it needs to be. And I think the culture around it will move away from, like, I don't know, you don't see the egotism around tomatoes that you see around cannabis. You don't see the, like, a lot of...
There's not an Instagram war on tomatoes?
No, I don't.
Oh, come on.
I mean, there probably is.
There's got to be.
But I guess it has something to do with more young men grow cannabis than any other crop right now, I feel like. But at the same time, I think when it really truly takes its place, there's no reason cannabis culture shouldn't be this wholesome thing. There's no reason it should be risque.
Well,
or
the
whatever.
difference is, I mean, like we're just so brainwashed because nobody feels weird drinking a beer in front of their kid and, like, at a fairground, like, hey, the kid's eating some cotton candy and I'm drinking a beer, and nobody's freaking out, you know what I mean? And with cannabis, it's always the smoke issue, of course, and you just don't, you have to kind of be logical about it. You're not going to be holding the kid right up in your face and blowing smoke on him. Yeah, hotboxing the kid. But they could be in the same fairgrounds. You know what I mean? There's definitely ways to do it and make it work. Yours is an 18+ show, right? I mean, it's not like you can't bring.
It is now. Last year we weren't. We let kids in, but not in the 215 area. But the fairgrounds and the community were worried about photo shots with a lot of the kids and just what the interpretation might be. So they asked us to be 18 and above.
Yeah.
We'd like to change that because we have a lot of speakers that are children with medical problems and medical challenges.
Right.
But like I said, the thing that you said the most that's the Emerald Cup is that, unlike the other shows, it's really an agricultural gathering. It's around farming. It's around the growers.
Yep.
And that's what it is. It's a contest. And so what you feel there is it's not just like a High Times or HempCon or something. It's got that country fair feel to it because it's all about the bud.
Yeah.
It's all about the flowers.
Yeah.
And so people feel that when they come out there. And all the speakers, we're teaching them the latest techniques in farming, organic, sustainable growing. And so everybody's there to learn that. So it's just got a different vibe. It's not just a party vibe. It's an educational vibe too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the thing is that most growers are, hopefully open to learning too. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they think they got it all down and they don't need to learn anything. But it is whenever you have that many people, especially when you're talking thousands and thousands of growers, there is always something to learn there. You know what I mean? If you can't learn in that group, then
a lot of bad information too.
Hey, you could definitely get some bad information too. But
the
results are there. That's the difference. Is you can look at people's results, and and that's kind of where it all starts. The conversation at least.
Yeah, well, they're not going to be able to do a lot of the farming techniques they've done in the past with pesticides and chemicals and stuff, because now at the open market, it's all going to be tested.
Yeah.
So I've been telling these guys, it's the end of the road for some of these poor farming techniques. You're going to really have to step up your game, and they realize it. So now they want to know how to do compost teas, and they want to come out and learn how to do proper, fertilizers without using the blue and the reds and the greens and stuff. So they're learning very quickly that they've got to step up a game, and they want to come down. They can come down and deal with the very best, teachers in the field, Jeffrey Lowenfels and all the rest of the people coming in to speak. So it's great. I see it, and it's like nobody's being chastised. It's like, okay, whatever you did, that's what you were, but it matters who you are now.
Did you guys ever have any?
Now it's like.
Did you guys ever have any kind of backlash at all in the first couple events when they were still back at your spot? Like, was Was it all,
Did you ever have any issue, or it was all?
Because we have issues here with every event cannabis related. It seems like.
Knock on wood, not ours.
No, we the only event that we had was the third year. The CHPs came out. We took over the road. It was so big, and this redneck guy comes up, and I'm standing out front, and he's trying to get those cars off, and he's like, and all these cars here, and these cars are driving by him with smoke coming out of the cars, and he goes, and smell that. All this pot coming out of these cars, they're getting on the highway. And just then my MC was announcing the winners, and he's like, and a purple Kush #3. And he's like, and I don't even know what's going on in there. He goes, you get this thing cleaned up, or I'm going to come back with an army and take you all out.
Right.
And we got it cleaned up. He went away. They didn't want to hassle us. And from there on, they just they came back each year and just said, look, we don't want to bother you. We just do it right. Keep off the roads and don't bother anybody. And so we've never, in fact, in Sonoma, we haven't had one DUI. The cops have come out and realized that we're a very harmless group of people.
Yeah.
Like I keep telling them, look, cannabis people, we don't start fights. We're not in there gangbanging.
Just
we're just here to have a good time. We're going to find that out. So the police I've dealt with extensively in Sonoma are like, it's one of the easiest events they deal with.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that from every cannabis event. It's always like here they do the Great American Beer Fest here, and of course we have our 420 and stuff like that. And Great American Beer Fest, there's always like 300 arrests for fighting. And
yeah, I mean the numbers, and they never talk about it. But then the cannabis ones, yeah, we very rarely see any kind of incidences. And if it is, it's usually, a lot of times it's harassment situations and stuff, just because they're expecting the worst. You know what I mean? So they kind of have to like grab one or two people on the way out. But for the most part, yeah, we don't see too much. We very rarely see any kind of incidences.
Yeah, the only thing we have is we got to be careful on the edibles so somebody doesn't get too high and just pass out.
Yeah, it's happened with dabs too. We've seen people drop from dabs.
Definitely people drop, and it was weird too. There was like one, like it depends if it's in the sun and it's hot
in
day.
In the sun,
and
you don't have water. Boom.
Yeah, then you see it coming. So anything else?
Oh yeah, I mean we're only an hour 15 into the show.
Yeah, we got a lot.
We got a lot to cover. I mean, I want to talk about the book. Exactly. The book that you are putting out. I don't know if you want to read anything from it. I don't know if you can tell us widely where it's available, what inspired you to do. I mean, obviously you got stories. I would do a book if I was you too.
Well, I after about 25 years ago, I'd gone through a situation where I was possibly facing 10 to 20 years, and I got out of that situation, and it's kind of a whole story that came back around. And I realized at that time I really wanted to write about this industry and how it all evolved and what had happened. I wrote that back then, and then I rewrote it. I put it out at 9/11, but I got turned down by about 20 publishers. The founder of, the developer of Esquire magazine was going along for a trip to India with my friend and asked if he could read it. And he said, there's no dialogue. It's really quirky. He said, don't anybody touch it. He said, there's 7 regressions within a story. He said, it's the strangest little thing I've ever seen, but it'll be great. Well, I put it out at 9/11. It got rejected by about 20 people, so it just went into hibernation. And then it wasn't the right time. So about a year ago, a friend of mine asked if he could, a scriptwriter asked if he could look at it. And I showed it to him, and he said, this is a great story. It just needs to be edited down and cut down. And so a friend of mine, Tom Bocci, who was the right arm for Blake Edwards for all the Pink Panther movies, dealt with about 2,000 scripts, and he's a college professor. He asked if he could help me edit it, and between he and my friend Randy and a couple of us, we sat down for about 4 months, and I never thought I'd get it in time for the Cup this year at all. But we ended up really cutting that story down from 260,000 words to about 150,000 words and really tightening it all up. It was kind of a shamanic recapitulation, really, is what it is. When you die, you get to recapitulate your life with your angels and guides without your ego. If you read Daniel Brinkley's books or any of these books, like Saved by the Light, so you get to sit down with your ego, without your ego and look at your life. And so that's what I did. And I actually channeled my grandfather, who was a Harvard-educated lawyer and had the first newspaper in Santa Clara Valley, worked with Mark Twain. He comes through me, and I put headphones on and play music, and I just channel the writing. And it's a really interesting process that I do, and that's how I can bring it right back to the perspective it is. It can become real time, even though it's so long ago.
Sure.
And so I rewrote this thing, and I didn't think we'd get it done in time, and all of a sudden we were going to go out, people were going to publish it, but it was like, why don't we just throw this thing out there? My friend John at Skunk said he'd do an excerpt from it, and I had some other people, because of all our media contacts, that they'd put it out there, and we had the Emerald Cup, so I just threw it together, formatted it. We we got it printed, and we're taking 1,000 copies to the Cup, and I've got people reading it all over, and I'm going to have a bunch of people reviewing it, and we just had to rather than wait, we just did it. So it's called The Cannabis Crusader, a spiritual journey into one man's lifelong dedication to his medicine. So it's basically the story of the 70s, 80s, and early 90s about how cannabis was and what happened and evolved in the whole industry along my lifeline, with all these stories about UFOs and all the interactions I've had with not only UFOs, but all these spiritual beings, because I basically was kind of a spiritual junkie my whole life, where some people go follow rock stars. I go follow the very highest spiritual beings, whether they're channelers or whether they were different forms of mastery. And so I basically talk about some of these people. One guy's a spirit guide drawer named Stan Maturek, who's passed on, but he'd done 100,000 drawings, and he would channel a World War II deceased veteran through his arm, and he would be scribbling a painting of one of your spirit guides. He would tell you your 7 main guides, your 7 upper guides, and he'd have them all written down on a piece of paper. And then he'd be channeling one of these pictures as he was telling you things about yourself. And he liked calling them zingers because they weren't future predictions. They were like right then, like maybe you're having migraine headaches every day, and he'd bring it up, or he'd tell you something about your mom or your dad died. Yeah, so he'd be telling you this, and he'd be scribbling it, and he'd never even be looking at this painting. And 40 minutes later, I love to watch the reactions from people, because he'd turn this around, and people were going to be sure that it was going to be some gibberish painting, and it would be like a complete masterpiece of one of your spirit guides, down to the T, every detail. And he would have never even looked at this thing. I watched him probably do several hundred of these drawings, and I never ceased to be amazed at his ability to do that drawing without looking at it more than a couple seconds at a time. And so I talk about Stan in there, and he came to me, and I'd been arrested. It was one of these times I'd been arrested, and he, I didn't tell him about it. I was at work furlough, and he came and said to me, he said, "Oh, it's different now. You're alone now." And he said, "You're crying yourself to sleep, right, Timmy?" And I'd say, "Yes, Stan." I was in jail at the time, work furlough. And he said, "I don't know what it is, but you're really distraught. You're crying yourself to sleep, but your angels and guides want you to know they're getting in bed and wrapping their arms around you in there, and they're holding you till you go to bed. Is that okay?" And I'd be like, this guy is so legendary, world class. I'd be like, "Yeah, Stan, that's really great." And then he'd say, "You started writing that book, huh?" And I said, "Yeah, I did start writing that book, Stan." He goes, "Your grandfather's a writer, huh?" I didn't even know my grandfather was writing through me at the time. He goes, "Your grandfather's a writer." I said, "Yeah, he is a writer." And he goes, "Well, he's here on the other side, and he wants to write that book with you. Is it okay?" And I said, "Wow, Stan, of course it'd be okay." And my grandfather was deceased, and Stan didn't even know he was a writer. And he said, "He's going to write that second book with you, too." And, Stan would do those types of things that would just give you tingles up your spine and blow your mind. And he'd come back year after year, and you'd have your paper with like 10 or 12 guides on it, and he would have done 5 or 6. Now, he would have done like 10 or 15,000 drawings in that year. And he'd come back, and he'd sit down and say, "Well, your nun is done, Agnes, and your Aztec guy is done, and your Islamic priest is done." And you look at your list, and they'd all be checked off. And then he'd go, "Well, your Christian monk wants to be drawn right now." And you'd look down, and you'd have one space for the Christian monk that hadn't been drawn yet. Right. He'd go, "He's sitting here right now. He's ready to sit down." And you'd look up at your list and just go, "How could a person do this?" I probably worked with 150 different channelers and mediums and stuff, and maybe only 5 or 10 were brilliant. But the ones that were that brilliant blew your mind, and Stan was in the top 3. And so, I talk about him and talk about all the UFO stories. I've been interacting with UFOs my whole life. I
hear a lot of UFO stories up there. You hear a lot of UFO stories up there.
In NorCal.
I started having them when I was a kid. Yeah, I started having them when I was a kid, before the whole Zeta Reticuli thing. I spent $150,000 developing a UFO show before sightings came on, and I was told by John Lear that I was going to get myself hurt if I didn't back off, because I wasn't connected. And that was before all these shows came out, and they really brought us up to speed. But I've had so many interactions that they're all in the story, too, a lot of it with cannabis. So basically, I'm going along with this kind of wild cannabis lineage of the 70s, 80s, and 90s as I'm regressing into these spiritual stories and hopefully teaching people some things about spirituality and God and stuff. And it just all links up into the end with me doing a 5,000 plant crop in the valley. We were first doing big crops down in San Joaquin Valley and some big grows up here at the same time.
And you have some, I guess, you have, is like a lot of photos in the book? Is there photos with, or is it just sort of?
Well, it's not in this one here. You got to remember, back then people didn't take a lot of photos.
I know, sure. That's what I mean. So it'd be like 1 or 2 if you had it. That's 100%. Because more dangerous.
No, I have a couple. I've got a couple of pictures of me as a younger person with really long hair standing in the greenhouse, and I was going to go look for those. We just didn't have quite enough time. But it's funny, even with the first Emerald Cup, we've gone back to find pictures and posters and information, and we didn't have any. It was all underground.
Yeah.
So we don't even have a poster of the first year's Emerald Cup.
Right. No,
that I've got any. There's a few left out there, but I don't have one.
Yeah, I know. Whenever you're doing stuff like that, because I helped organize cups back in '93 or so, and I don't even have any of the original material. It's like, oh, damn, I should have kept some of that stuff, you know. But hopefully somebody out there does.
Yeah, there's someone who has that memorabilia.
Yeah, I'm gonna put up on the sites and try to find that first year's poster, because even if we have to get a copy of it, I'd like to have it. We have all the other posters, and that's the one year I'm missing. And with the fact that John Trudell headlined that, and he's on the poster, and he's just recently passed, I'd love to have that for.
Well, that's something for the listeners out there.
Yeah, we'll put the listeners on it.
They'll spike find it now.
Yeah, we got some resourceful internet listeners that tend to track things down pretty well. So we'll keep you in touch on that. So how long's the book? How many pages does it come out to after the cuts?
Yeah, I think it's about 317. I think
Nice.
it's the very last piece. I haven't even seen a finished copy of it. I put an epilogue at the end, and I had 3 people. We were working on it. Of course, like a lot of things, we had deadlines we had to get to, and we would work basically for. I got up at 4 a.m. every night, every day for 2 months, and then we worked for 3 days straight with almost no sleep to actually just get it done, so we could get it into Amazon and get it to Skunk Magazine and get it printed in time for the cup. So it was a whirlwind to pull that off, and it was exciting. I feel really good about it. It's one of those things on a bucket list that you always want to get done, and I can check that one off. And I can't wait to write the second one. I've already written that story about the bathtub scene, and that's what's going to open the second book, although I don't want to make people think it's all about violence, because it's really not. But people do like exciting, thrilling stories to go with the rest of it.
It's a great way to get them hooked in the beginning, that's for sure.
Sounds like another Netflix deal. Right
Yeah,
there.
you got a Netflix deal right there. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely telling Adam right now, Bud, you better bring me back a copy of that book from Emerald Cup. I don't know if you. I hope you're listening over there.
Are you coming out, Adam? You're coming out, right?
Yeah, I'll be leaving tomorrow.
He's leaving. He's heading out tomorrow.
I'm heading out tomorrow morning. So
We should do a top 50 judges pack so you could do your own judging.
yeah, I think sounds good to me. Sounds good to me.
We get it down. The judging goes for 400. We get it down to a top 50, and then we bring it to a top 20.
Yep.
So I thought we'd start with the top 50 so you could do your own judging and come up with your own top 20.
Perfect. Yeah, we're going to be on the air for the next 2 days, too, so we're going to be doing 4 hours
You're
each
broadcasting from there?
night. Broadcasting from there,
Nice.
4 hours each night.
Solo?
So, hand solo right here.
Seriously?
You haven't seen the lineup yet, though?
No.
I got 12 different people rolling through.
You got a good one going?
Yeah, you'll see.
Nice.
Caesar now is making it right.
Nice.
He's making it work.
What can you go over the book title again for us, Tim?
Yeah, it's called The Cannabis Crusader, A Spiritual Journey into One Man's Lifelong Dedication to His Medicine.
And you can find that right on Amazon?
Yeah. In fact, you know what? Wait a minute. We changed that title at the very end. Yeah, you can find it on Amazon. The original title of the book was Dancing with the Feds, The Spiritual Adventures of the Marijuana Man.
That's the one that I had seen
Marijuana Man-
online and posted. Is that not the one it went to print under?
Yeah,
No.
but the Marijuana Man is kind of it's a derogatory term and stuff. So actually, we changed it. It's called The Cannabis Crusader, Dancing with the Feds, a spiritual journey into one man's lifelong dedication to his medicine.
Get it all in there.
Yeah.
Get it all in
Well,
there.
you know,
Subtitles. I love subtitles.
we had to have the Dancing with the Feds was kind of like I've been dancing with the Feds. That's what it's about.
Right.
And I didn't want to be the Cannabis Crusader like it was just an activist story or something, because it isn't. It was dancing with the Feds. That's what I was doing for those 30 years in there. And then the spiritual journey had to come in because I had to be able to show people it was dancing with the Feds and it's a spiritual journey so they know what they're getting.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I'm definitely looking forward to the copy Adam brings me home.
There you go. Of course.
So let's we talked about the book. Let's talk about this year's Emerald Cup. What are you excited about, man?
Well, I'm really excited about the speakers coming out. In the past, a couple of years, they've gotten better and better. We've got Robert Clark coming out, Ken McKernan. We've got these people, all the best breeders and geneticists coming in. We've got the Onama, who's the State Board of Equalization, coming out. We've got congressmen joining us. We've got, of course, the best breeders and the doctors and scientists and lawyers. So the speakers and panels just get better. And in the last couple of years, I've had to do so much work. I haven't got to see one show. Of course, we film them all, put them on the sites, but I haven't been able to even shake hands or say thanks to any of the people that joined us. So I've got full-time operations people now, and I got full-time marketing people. I'm not just doing interviews. I'm cutting back all the interviews during the show so I can spend time with the people at the show. And so what I'm looking forward to is actually being able to spend time with people and all the speakers and be able to enjoy the show a little bit after several years of basically running like mad just to handle all the details and hotspots.
That's great. I've never gotten to that point yet with any of my events.
No, that's the problem.
Yeah, of course, it's good too.
Whenever you run your own thing like that, it's like you're running. You hear your name said so many times that you go like, you're like, oh my God, I can't never relax. The minute you think you're gonna take a moment to relax, there's some fire to put out somewhere or something.
The only day I don't smoke any herb is
barely.
on my own events because I'm just running around.
And I leave drinks everywhere. I'm the guy who always has one sip and then I leave it somewhere and I run off to the next thing. And I'm like, man, it's. But it's.
You guys do shows.
What's that?
You obviously do shows because I don't smoke when the show's going on, or I wouldn't be able to just keep up with it. And I leave drinks everywhere. People realize I have about 24 drinks in different places.
Exactly, That's me. That's me in a nutshell right there. They're like, "What's up? Didn't you have one?" I'm like, "Nah, dude, just keep them
that
going."
One's long gone. Yeah, grab another.
I get one sip if I'm lucky out of everything.
You should just bring me a little shot glass because that's all I'm going to take, and then I'll just leave an empty shot glass.
But it's fun. I mean, it's one of those. It is nice to do though because whenever you organize a bunch of people and they have a good time like that, the whole thing about it is like a lot of times people are like, yeah, this can make so much money, and I'm like, you know what? It all is about breaking even in the beginning, and it all comes after that. If you lose money on an event, that's when it's a problem. That's
right. As long as you break even,
and breaking even is a great feeling when everybody has a great time. They all got fed and drank and eat and things, and you didn't lose any money, and the sponsors are good and everybody's happy. But it's such a balancing act, and it's one of those things when you're organizing events that people, again, just like a cannabis related thing, it's like they're calculating, oh, you made this much money off of every person, but they don't understand that to do a good show you really got to spend a lot of money. And the thing is, it's not, you got to be thinking ahead. You can't like, we need this because it's going to do this, especially in outdoor events. I mean, I lived in the Netherlands, which it rains 300 days out of the year. So if you do an outdoor event there and you don't have a tent, then you're going to go out of business real quick because there's going to be a storm guaranteed. You know what I mean? And in Colorado, same thing. Like I've tried to do indoor outdoor events there, and it's like I buy a new tent I buy a new tent covers, and I'm like, it's unbelievable because it's snow. I mean, we had snow in April during the Cannabis Cup here. Nobody predicted it, and all of a sudden we had a blizzard in April, And it was like, oh, my God. And I just happened to rent all these tents. Everything worked out, but I spent the whole week shoveling snow pretty much. I was the guy shoveling the snow and in the corner, and then it's rough. So luckily you didn't have no snow.
Oh, yeah.
No snow predictions.
We do snow here in the winter. It's December. Up here, we've had snow come down on us at the Emerald Cup. We've had frozen pipes. I had pipes that were so frozen I had to bring in water, and before the cooks could cook, that water froze. And we've had them where they poured so much rain, all the tents have been blown over. In fact, I've almost lost 3 or 4 Emerald Cups up here just to the hazards of trying to do a show in the winter. Now with Sonoma County, last year we had a deluge 3 days before the show. It was like 6 inches deep. And then it just parted and opened up so we could actually put the show on. I thought it was going to almost be canceled. This year we've moved everything inside. They've given us the whole fairgrounds, everything but the food and the walkways, and we're going to have trams and covered tents to move people. Although it doesn't look like we're going to get much rain. We're going to be able to put the show on from now on. All the 215s inside.
Nice.
We don't have those issues anymore. But it's challenging to put a show on in December and count on the weather.
Huge, yeah. I mean, that's also like a huge risk, but also a huge cost too. And then again, people sort of they appreciate it when you do a good job. They definitely don't appreciate it if you don't do your job.
Yeah.
And it's terrible to see a lot of these events where people just don't understand that you really gotta, when you have a large number of people like that, it's just you gotta really be on your toes the whole day and dealing with local authorities and dealing with the whole just from the parking and the driving and everybody trying to get in and out and keeping everybody happy. So I know you got a tough week ahead, that's for sure. Or weekend, I should say.
This show went from, it was about 40,000 the last year at Area 101. It became 80,000 the first year we were at the Mateel Center. It was 420 2 years ago, about 425 the first year at the fairgrounds. Last year it was a $725,000 show, and this year it's $1.2 million.
Yeah.
And I haven't had huge sponsorship until this year. We've done it all bootstrapped. I've never made any money on the show. It's just been a
No, you
labor
make
of
the
love.
money on the sponsors. That's what we learned really early. You make all the money on the sponsors.
Yeah, if any. I mean, and it's not
Yeah,
even,
if you're making money, it's on sponsors.
and it's not really even about that. They just save the day, because without good sponsorship, you can't do an event. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's like your key to the whole thing, is
To making it
having like
proud.
1 or 2 anchor sponsors that are there to hold the lines. You know what I mean? And then a bunch of smaller ones that fill in the gaps. But it's so hard. That's like the hardest thing to do, is to get those people to totally be there for you when they have to write the check, because it's all great when they're like, yeah, sure. Then it's like, okay, well, time to pay. It's $10,000 or whatever, and it's like that. Those are the people that actually, those little chunks, because everything else is just to maintain the grounds and the things. And,
Right.
So yeah, I know it's a challenge.
Yeah, but this year we've had between sponsors and vendors, we've pulled in about $750,000. So it's really been an amazing step up where people are, Eden Farms, Absolute Extracts, SC Labs, Weedman Labs, people putting up 30 or 40 grand to name stages and stuff. It's been a humbling experience to see so many people step up, but at the same time, we've put more money into everything. So it's breaking it even on the overall effect. I've got to still sell, 12,000 tickets just to break even.
Right.
And we're only selling, 16. So I'm only, if I sell every ticket out, I'll be lucky to make a couple $100,000. By the time I pay taxes, I'll be making 150 grand. But as it is, I'm just hoping to break even and make a few bucks. And I'm just so thankful for all those sponsors that have stepped up and given us the ability to put the show on, because we don't spare any expense. High Times and all the rest of them, God bless them, but they're walking out with $1 million on those shows because they're not giving people, chairs to sit on. They're not giving them. We give out 10 pounds of entry bud to people. We give VIP packs. People think I make money off the bud. We had 110 pounds of bud entered in the contest last year, and we gave it away to all the VIPs, all the musicians, all the people in the crews, everywhere else. We just hand it all back. We pay our people, and then my daughter and I, Taylor, who's my co-producer, I think she made like less than $4,000 a month working full time on that show, and I didn't even make that much. And but with all the sponsors and vendors that have come in this year, we've sold out everything, and people have finally realized the difference between our show and the rest of them. So they're not taking time to step up. They've actually, Eden Farms gave us 40 grand. We got Absolute threw $30,000 at us. There's a number of others that really came in generously and said, hey, we want to be part of this show. We want to help you, and we want to be able to call this our own. So we got people putting on pre-parties, after parties, during parties. They're all putting the money up, and that's one of the touching things that's happened over the last couple of years, is to see the people wanting to claim part of the ownership of the Cup as a community event that they're proud of.
And I heard the phrase covered trams, and I realized it was a whole different class of event than anything High Times has ever done.
Exactly, right, to get around.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, we wanted to make sure that if there was rain, because we took over the little Cow Palace, which is about 300 yards from the Grace Pavilion. And if there was rain, we didn't want anybody to be wet. So we put up tents on each end. And we got a 40-person tram to run back and forth so that people don't have to ever get wet. And they go from the music and the two poutine areas.
Sure.
And that's the kind of stuff we do, because it's like, I don't want to get wet. I don't want anybody getting wet. I don't want anybody having wet feet all day long. And it looks like we're not going to have those issues, but just in case, we did that anyway. And then also it's a long walk to ensure people, if they're going back and forth, they could jump on a tram and go there and back.
I spend most of the High Times Cup walking, I think.
Well, yeah, and I have friends who are like, they want to come to the Cup, but she's like, 65, and she's just like, or 67, and she's just like, oh, I can't really walk, and it's just like, I was like, well, you're definitely gonna have to usually walk at these events, because most of the time that's the thing, is sometimes you're like, oh my god, I can't believe I walked around. Like, you come out the building and they won't let you back in the building, and you got to walk all the way around the other side, and that kind of crap drives you nuts. Because some of these places are so big too.
Yeah, but see, we thought about all that stuff, and we don't want people to have to, get sick off the food or have to walk anywhere if they don't want to, or be cold and wet, or, and they can get the best speakers. We don't charge any additional fees for it. And the music coming in, Revolution, they're doing 20,000-seat arenas right now.
Sure.
And they're coming in playing for us for 3,500 people, 4,000 people.
Yeah. No, it's nice. That's a great event. We like the personal feel too. And that's the thing is,
if I wasn't upset that I had to miss it, already,
Yeah.
I'm double upset. Triple. But,
Exactly. I told
it sounds like a really amazing event.
Next year we'll make it.
Next year,
we'll make,
of course,
make
we'll
it a
do the
point
whole
to
thing.
have everybody come. At least I'm going to get there this year to check it out, and I've been really looking forward to it since the last 2 years, missing out and like seeing it grow and evolve, and everybody who came back was just blown away. So I was like, all right, this is something I got to check this out. So you'll have a virgin there.
Like Ace Schaefer from Sonoma County Collective has come in and sponsored the VIP tent, and he's got custom special machines in there. They're going to have, they put a beautiful bar in there. They've got screens that we're going to be pumping the music in from the main stage right into the VIP tents. And I mean, when we have a VIP area, it's a true VIP area. It's like, it's chill, it's not.
It's not just
nice.
a couple extra
So
Snicker bars.
to-
Here's some Snicker bars, VIP. There you go.
Kid would love it.
That's all the kid
Yeah,
needs.
people get edibles, and you'll be able to get anything you want in there. So last year we had a friend of mine, again, that ownership thing. I had a friend of mine who showed up with over a couple hundred pounds of fresh crab, and he just brought it in coolers and dumped it on the VIP tables and let everybody just have at it.
Nice.
And, it must have been a couple $1,000s worth of crab he threw out there.
Sure. No, that's awesome. I mean, that's the thing. If you can get the right vibe at these events, and it doesn't turn into a whole because that's the problem. A lot of times it just turns into everybody wanting free shit, and then it turns like weird, and instead of it just happening naturally. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you're gonna get. Don't worry. Relax. And so a lot of these events, people just kind of cruise around with bags and just sort of try to take as many things as they can and run back to their car. And I watch sometimes from afar, like, oh my God, this is I barely have time to see my friends, because it'd be like talking to one guy for a while and there's 5 other people that need to see me or something, But then I watch some of the way they've turned because they're real consumer orientated, you know what I mean? So that's what it sounds like yours is going to be not like, which is awesome because, and for me, organic food is the way to go anyway. So that's easy. That's an easy choice because usually
we're looking for the one place, right?
There's usually one van at the cup that I can deal with, and then it's like, oh yeah, it's the same one I had last year and the year before that because there was no choice. It's not like it evolved into anything bigger. But yeah, that's that. I mean, especially for California, because that's one of the things. If I'm in California, I feel I should have access there to some of the best vegetables.
Why is there not more organic food just around in California? It always blows my mind.
You have to search. I mean, it depends on where
you have to search. That's what I'm saying. I just expect it to be like Boulder, where it's like, oh yeah, there's 2 organic restaurants across the street from each other type thing. So that's awesome to bring all that together, though, because it's not that common.
Well, yeah, it is tough for organic restaurants having Area 101. It's really hard to make money off organic ingredients. It's not an easy chore to do. And we had some pushback from some of these restaurants that were like, wow, do we have to be all organic? And we were like, look, we're not charging that much, so you can come in and really give people organic food, and they appreciate it so much. You can drop, push up a couple bucks. So we've got almost 24 very variety-oriented organic food providers. I mean, anything from crepes to Mexican food to Italian food, Greek food, you name it, Adam. You're going to be able to come out and it's a smorgasbord. And I'll tell you what, those people do well. Most of most of those food providers are getting over $20,000 for the weekend. They're just backed up and people are just chowing the food. Yeah. They're not as much trying to get all the free stuff as they are going to the lectures and chowing on the food and taking in the good music. It's a little bit more of a cultural event than just people showing up to have a bunch of free stuff.
More than a commercial event. I love that. I love that.
That's cool. They tried to do the county fair here. The actual county fair here did a cannabis pavilion last year, and it was a total disaster because they didn't do it for real. First of all, it was one of those things where it was everything with actual plants was done off site, so you got to see photos of the plants. So it was that's not really doing it for me right there. But on top of that, they had some problems locally with one of the companies here that apparently mixed up their edibles where they brought in medicated and they thought that they were labeled as unmedicated, and they gave them out to hundreds of people. And once people figured out that they were medicated, they had like a class action lawsuit on them. So it was a total disaster in that sense.
That's Denver style for you.
You know what I mean? And so now they're probably never going to do it again. the way they did it, because they actually did it at the, like I said, they did it at the county fair, so it wasn't like a cannabis group that really put it together. They kind of did it real tongue-in-cheek, where it was going to be like a joint rolling
contest with oregano.
With oregano, right? Exactly. So I was like, all right, you know what I mean? It was one of those complete bullshit things, but it would have been nice if they had actually pulled it off without dosing all these people, because the idea to be open about letting cannabis into the real county fair, I think, would be the kind of next step for you guys, would be to join up with the real county fair at some point and do a smaller version maybe of this internally at some of these with more, with majority of people that are not being exposed, instead of being just always about our, would that you see that future ever coming together, or?
Well, sooner than people think. My brother-in-law's retired captain of the Watsonville PD down in Santa Cruz County, and all the farmers down there want to integrate it in. And as soon as we go legal across this country, of course, that'd be the next evolution, and we'll see that integrated into traditional county fairs. It'll have its own section, of course, but just like you go to the beer garden, you'll go to the cannabis garden. And I've been telling my friends that booked the show from Cali Roots, Dan Sheehan. I said, look, Cali Roots, why shouldn't Cali Roots have its own cannabis section? I mean, every one of these festivals is going to end up having it, because it's just a natural segue. And I think they're going to have to control the edibles. At our show, we're not going to have anything over 10 milligram doses for edibles, because these guys, like you said, some of them do run from place to place, and all of a sudden they do 3 or 4 50 milligram edibles, and they're bombed.
Yeah.
So we're keeping it down to 10 milligrams so that they can actually have 10 different desserts somewhere and not get high or not get too high. But other than that, it's it's like you said, it's friendly, it's natural. And how many people, at least in California, are touching the cannabis industry? Everybody's got family members doing some part of it, and they're all being affected by it. So it's not anything that's a big deal for us out here.
Yeah, no, and like, again, if you do the ag, if you think about like an ag situation where you go out, once you leave the city and you go to some of these smaller towns, they have their once a year county fair, and that's pretty much, that's their big thing. You know what I mean? That's the big deal of the whole freaking year. So you can already see that this would at one point snowball a little bit, where I mean, I would hope that you would be able to, after proving yourself, with these guys for a bunch of years, be able to maybe franchise or license your sort of branding to these other ones and have them do it right. You know what I mean? Like when they do their contests, they everybody doesn't just start free forming everything, because you're back to the zero again, where a lot of us have done it enough where we see the pitfalls when it comes to edibles, or we see the pitfalls when it comes to a lot of people and a lot of weed and a lot of how all of a sudden it's like you got to keep things organized, and that's like a huge hurdle, because a lot of times everyone's so excited when they see the weed, they forget about all their jobs that they're supposed to be doing. Like their one job was to be the runner for you and go back and forth, and now they got their first bag of weed and they're already already, like I told everybody, we drug test all of our employees. We make sure our employees can handle their drugs, a little bit when it comes to smoking, at least, So I get, how many people you got working for you this year, total staff members?
We probably have over 50. If you count the judges, over 100.
Yeah, well, not the
it's
judges.
It's a big process. And you got people, California's a big state. And when you got drop-off locations from L.A. all the way to the Sierras and up to, Shasta and over to here, you got people running full-time to get those entries. They've got to come down here. They've got to get to SC Labs in Santa Cruz for the testing. They've got to get back to all these judges, all these judges meetings,
right.
And then you've got, just without even the production aspect of it. In fact, if you really pulled the production aspect, I think we probably have 150 employees on the whole thing.
Sure.
And it's a huge undertaking, and the people want to do more shows. They want to have. I've had many offers to do other shows, but when they really realize the challenge, at least as far as the contest of us orchestrating that and doing it over a 6-week period and bringing it all in, if you want to do a contest, a cheesy contest and do it in one day, bring a bunch of people together, fine. But if you're going to have judges actually go home with 400 entries and have enough time to smoke each one of them and do a smell and a look and a taste and a high on it, it's a really complicated thing to put together. I think we will have very soon other events that are Emerald Cup events, but I don't know how much of the competition we'll do. We've talked about doing a Light Depot Cup in the summer and doing that in conjunction with the Emerald Cup in the fall and stuff. But I'm happy just to pull off this one show at this point and bring 20,000 people to the fairgrounds. We'll probably have 25. We'll probably end up with 30,000 people within the next couple of years. And that's a pretty big show for me, along with my farms and my little event center here and all the companies we're starting and things I'm doing and the writing and stuff. I'm pretty much a full-time person.
Speaking about some stuff that you got going on, we just got a message in. Someone asked, inquires about our buddy Nelson Sands, about Emerald Cup seeds. Is that you got a seed project going on?
Well, we started going out, and we started last year. We were going to do an edibles company. People started wanting me to start putting products out. And so really quickly what happened was we went out and realized it's not so much edibles, it's extracts. And that people are extracting things, and then they're putting them into different products. And so that quickly evolved to where we were looking for a name. And then people said, put the Emerald Cup name on it with your integrity and stuff. People will jump right into it. And so we were like, okay, well, let's look into that. And so that's very quickly, along with this book, over the last 2.5 months, evolved into 6 new companies, which are Emerald Cup edibles, medicinals, concentrates, oils, genetics, flowers, or the other one is, and so they've all come in, yes. And so what's happened is that everybody was using clones up here until the last few years because everybody wanted OG, of course, and Sour D and Chemdog and Headman and whatnot. And I never thought it really changed that quick. John Vergados, who's a major seed breeder and dealer, suggested we get together all these breeders. And, of course, nobody wanted to come out until the last couple of years because people like Mark Emery and stuff were going to jail. Well, the Emerald Cup 3 years ago, Leo won with Aficionado at the Chemdog Reserve, and it's been off the races ever since. I mean, he gets $50 a seed, and people from all over the world are looking for the seeds and the genetics in the triangle. So I started pulling in some different people to be part of a genetics company and a seed company. And that was a little bit of a wild ride because I had a couple friends that were going to be part of it, and then we decided that it would be best to just be friends and not be partners. And so I've got one of the original winners of the Cup, Doug, who passed away, and he gave all of his genetics to a friend of mine, Taylor, from T. Beazle Farms, who's my concentrate partner. And so he brought his strains in, and then my friend Charlie, an old-time breeder up here, brought his strains in, and then I started with a friend of ours, Mark's, and it's quickly evolved to where, we're going to have 30 or 40 strains in the Emerald Cup genetic line, and all of a sudden I find myself in the middle of a large genetics company, seed company, along with all these other companies. So it's really hard to keep up with all of it, but we are coming to the Cup with some seeds and some genetics, and I'm really proud of the people we're bringing in to be part of that.
Awesome.
Are they going to be launching at this one, or are they going to be next year, or when do you think the...
No, we're coming in with an Emerald Cup OG strain. My friend Charlie's got years of stabilizing that strain. That's really, it's about a 52-day. It comes in just amazing. One of the best-smelling OGs you've ever seen. And
nice.
Then I've got a friend who helped with Lemon Skunk Diesel. It actually came out, I think, through, was it DNA or something? Man, up in Kobo. A lot of these guys never wanted to really come out in the open, but they had all the strains, Chocolope and Lemon Skunk Diesel and all these other strains, Jagu and stuff. And so they're bringing them to us. And with these various companies, we're giving credit to everybody that wants their name on it. And some people, like the gentleman that developed the Emerald Cup OG, he doesn't want his name on it, so we're keeping it as Emerald Cup OG.
Right.
But we have a Pineapple Afghani that we're bringing in, and we've got that Lemon Skunk Diesel. We've got Doug strains, which is almost heaven. He won the Cup with it. Doug won 10 top 3 places in this country between New York and here over the last 7 years. He won the Emerald Cup with Almost Heaven a few years back. And so we're now developing all those strains, getting enough, seeds so we can start out at the Cup, and then over the next 3 months we'll have limited releases of about 30 different strains.
That's definitely exciting. Definitely, I mean, we definitely have a huge lineup of genetics geeks kind of waiting in the wings here. So anytime you guys are doing a drop, obviously, we'd love to have you back on hyping it to the audience here. And speaking of hyping to the audience, I got to take a moment. Adam's going to be out there broadcasting both nights, you said?
8 to 12 both nights.
8 to 12 local time, from the Emerald Cup.
So
from the Emerald
West
Cup,
Coast.
8 p.m. to 12 a.m. West Coast time. His special guests are going to be Bubba Kush, DJ Short, Sonny Chiba, Odie Diesel from Homegrown Natural Wonders, Loud Seeds, Snow High Seeds, which I'm very interested in. That's a very interesting one. The Seed Company, which is 2.
Yeah. Two's coming with me. We're flying together.
Oh, and
it's going to be fun.
And Frenchie Cannoli, who...
And somebody else, too.
Have you met Frenchie?
Yeah, I know Frenchie.
Yeah.
I know him from back a little bit from... The thing is that he knows of me. We know of each other. We'd hardly ever hung out, but...
That's what I'm saying. You never hung out with him.
But I saw him at the last show in San Bernardino, whatever, for about a half hour. Hung out with him. Okay. But anyway, it's going to be a good show.
That's good.
And there's going to be 2 shows in a row, and then...
So is this both nights, or...?
Both nights. I'm not sure. It'll
flippity.
Yeah. And it'll be good. And then if we have the top 50, we'll be able to, on the air, get all nuts.
Yeah.
It'll make it great.
It's going to be good stuff. I'm sorry I have to miss it.
I know. So, back to...
you will at the top 50. We'll get that put away for you, Adam.
Awesome. I'll give Taylor a heads up, so... there's no confusion. I don't want to hear, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm just kidding.
No. She knows too. We've already made them up. We make about 20 judges packs because we give it to the bands. We put it out all over the place. We want everybody to partake in the very finest that the state of California's got to offer.
Yeah, and how? So to give us a little. It says you had so many varieties.
Oh, we're getting a little feedback. Can you just turn your speakers down, maybe, Tim?
I don't have any. I'm not changing my speakers.
I don't know.
That's interesting. Oh, now it's fixed. That's weird.
I don't know.
Okay.
But now I lost my train of thought. Putting together all these packs.
Varieties, yeah.
Putting together all these packs. How is your? Because that's one of the challenges of cannabis in general is that if I'm sitting at my farm and I got, give me an idea. Actually, how much was the entries? What was the amount per entry? For the flowers?
The flower was 3 ounces.
3 ounces?
We had a little over 400. So, so you've got about 1,200. We had about 90 pounds in this year. And they've got to put those into judges, containers for all the judges. By the time they do the judges packs, the second and third round, I think last year we had over 12,000 containers we had to put together.
Wow. Yeah.
This year will be about the same because we're doing the judges packs, and we'll do 10 of those, which is about 4,000. We'll do the top 50s, which will be another 500 in there, and then all the judges packs. We'll have over 10,000 containers that our guys will put together just for that part of it.
Okay, because one of the things about that, I know there's been issues, especially, with flowers it's a little bit less critical, but there's been some real issues with some of the solvent people and some of the different extracts where they're just not stable enough, and they put them in a spot and it gets too hot, and by the time it gets to the judges, they're all buttered up and look terrible, and there's always those kind of issues. Because I think a lot of times the people don't realize that this stuff is... Everybody's giving it to you from a different source in different conditions, and some people are probably real meticulous and got it all perfect, and some guys used to hand it to me in a bag, and I used to be like, well, are you kidding? A dirty bag, or something, and I'd be like, well, what is this? I reused it and it's old. Do they do any kind of break? Do they just give it to you in 3 separate ounces that you can then divide however you guys need to divide it, or you have them do any kind of pre-work?
Yeah. No, we do it. We get in 3 ounces. We break it all up. We take care of it all. We do the best to maintain the integrity of the bud. We refrigerate all the solventness that comes in, with the rosin coming in.
Right.
It's really critical to take care of it. It all goes into glass. It's part of that really challenging process to keep the products in the best shape they can be in and give them to the judges the way they need them so that the contest runs right. Like I said, people have no idea until you try to do it how much work it is.
With the rosin, though, do you have the guys pre-make them into half-gram bits, or do you have them? Because that could be a real challenge. Or do you have them give it to you into one piece?
We have them come down and broken down, but I actually like it the other way because it gives us, by the time we're done, we end up a 6-gram piece that we can put on the display case.
Uh-huh.
Because last year it was all in 1 pieces, and so all of a sudden you end up with this little 1-gram piece on the display case that nobody can really see.
Sure.
Whereas if it's a 1-gram piece, all of a sudden there's enough for people to take pictures.
Sure.
And so we're actually putting it back into a 5 or 6-gram piece. We're not giving out any of the solventness of the rosin to any of the attendees because we want it to be in one big piece so that all the people can take pictures and really see it.
Right. It's challenging, though.
And so next year we'll say that put it in 7 or 8 1-gram pieces, and then the rest just put it in one chunk so that we can show it off.
Gotcha. No, that makes the most sense. Yeah, because it's it's definitely where it gets real complicated because people are sometimes by the time they get their product to wherever they need to get it, it's already doesn't even look like they when they entered it, So, and then there's a lot of whining going on around that time. But I'm sure with the flowers, you guys are on point. So you do the flowers in glass too? Everything's in glass?
Yeah.
Nice.
You know what we've told the contest people over the years, I've just drummed it into them. Look, you've got to go through your best 20 pounds. You got to spread it out and get the best pound of that. You got to go through that best pound and get your best 3 ounces, bud by bud pick it, so that every bud that goes to a judge is the fire.
Right.
Some of these people, even after all these years, they just grab 3 ounces out of something and they don't realize that, come on, within 2 pounds or 3 pounds, you're going to have so much of a difference of quality of bud. And so do it right, make sure it's all trimmed meticulously, and they present it in the right way and get it cured. And they're getting better and better. I'll tell you what, with the entries this year, our judges have said they're just, 2 or 3 times better than they were.
Right.
The quality every year is just going up. The people are realizing how to bring it in and what to present it like, because they all want to get top 20.
Right.
And they realize that they're going to compete against the best in the world. They better bring it.
I mean, to bring and top 20 on the numbers you guys are working with is a huge task.
Yeah.
It's not like the easiest thing in the world to get in the top 20, especially when most people don't get a chance to see the other people's work up until the day. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, everyone's got their little thing going. They might know a couple people and they might see some other people's material, but a lot of people live in a cloud where they think they're the ones doing the best work ever, not realizing that there's a shitload of people out there doing the same work, and we're all kind of gunning for each other, especially when there's an event like yours to showcase. Then it makes people, you see some people pull some moves and you're like, wow, I never even realized they were doing that quality of work there. And it's humbling, I think, for some growers. They come home tails between their legs and they're like, wow, they never thought it was going to be that rough. But I'm looking forward to it because I can't wait. If it's that much better than it was last year, and last year I heard really good things too. So it's not like I'm expecting it to be anything but stellar this year.
Yeah, that top 50 is amazing. You could go through the top 50 and make a case for any of that. I mean, it's sad for the people not to get. That's why we do a top 50 now, because if you go up and look at top 48 or 50 or whatever else, and I smoke it, and it's just like, wow, this is stunning. How did this not make top 20? Then I go back and look at the top 20 and think, wow, that's incredible. And then you get outside, like last year, we were giving a lot of the bud away that didn't make the top 50, and I'm looking at all this bud, and I'm going, there's some amazing product in here.
Right.
I mean, out of 650 entries, sure, half of them are B, they're not A, but, I mean, there's 100 that are just fire, 100 or more, and it's really amazing. You got to be good. I had a judge that was with us for a number of years, and he decided not to be a judge. He wanted to enter because he was so sure he would get top 10. And he was sweating it because he actually was at number 12, and the only reason why he made top 10 was because 2 of them got knocked out for failing the test. And so he said he's never going to enter again because just making a top 10 was like, that was it, just the fact he got in there. And this was a phenomenal grower. And he was like, man, I had no idea how hard it was going to be to even get top 10. And he said, I'm not doing it again because I don't want to not make it.
Now, the last couple of years, were the trends in the top 10, were they like your classic OG diesel things, or were they a lot of unique things that just kind of came out of left field that people never seen before?
It's interesting. We had a Sweet Serenade, which was an OG cross last year. You get a lot of the crosses, so it's not just straight OGs. They get a little flavor in there, different types and stuff. I think you got a little bit of some perps in there or something. But you get the cookies that's come in, the Skittles that's come in. After you smoke a lot of OG, people are looking for something a little different, but you've always got the OG in the top 20. It's going to sit there. You've always got the diesel, the fires in there. But, every year there's something that surprises you. Last year it was the Skittles. The year before that it was the cookies. Sweet Serenade made it in. Well, you got Jackson from Leo, Mean Gene, and every year he got a cherry limeade. He's got the black lime, and he's always coming up with some phenomenal crosses every year. It's interesting because you look at Jackson, you look at Derek, you look at Travis from Gorilla Farms. There are probably a dozen people that have had top 20 winners like most of the last 10 years. Almost every year they're going to have a top 20. There's about 10 of them that just are going to bring it. and you just know it. It's like, okay, it's going to be Derek, or it's going to be Jackson, it's going to be it's going to be Travis, and year after year they come back. So really, if you gave them all the same strain, it would still be these phenomenal growers that would bring something that just sparkles and just has just that look of diamonds on it. It just, you can just tell they just put the love into it. There's something. It's like that cooking where that chef just elevates it beyond just those ingredients into something that's magical. And that's what they do. They put so much love and attention into that it's like your mom's home cooking. Why is it so good? There's just something special about it. And that's what these guys do. But, it's funny. Every year, and we had a green queen come in and get it one year. And I was really surprised by that. We had a lemon skunk come in, and I didn't think it would go towards that Jack Herrera smell, but it was so phenomenal that Darren had done such a great job that it was hard to argue with it. It was just a phenomenal piece of work that he had done for that strain. It was the best that strain could have ever been. And so our judges they're looking at it like they're going to be very objective into what is the finest work, the finest artistic medicine that can be presented. And you get that many judges. You get 14 judges in there. It's wonderful because we bring some judges that are really, more dedicated to the fire. Some people are more towards the fruities. You got different tastes and preferences, and that's what makes it really good to see those judges get there on that last day and really want to make sure that the best of the best is what gets awarded.
Yeah, we're gonna have seats here now. Justin told me that we're having Jackson on the show on Friday, so
nice.
We'll have
from Emerald Cup.
Nice. From Emerald Cup. So we got at least one of your top guys in on the show on Friday, so that'll be good. Hopefully, you can maybe if we actually get a chance to link up, we can try to get some of these other guys on the show while I'm there.
Yeah, you let me know. I can bring them in. Now all of them want to speak, so I'll bring them all in. But you couldn't have a finer cannabis farmer and a geneticist and also a person than Jackson. He's as good as they come.
Nice.
And you're really fortunate to have the time with him.
Right. I look forward to that. It's going to be awesome. And
I know his was some of my favorite herb that I smoked in that when I went, one time I went out, not to Emerald Cup, but one of the SoCal Cups.
Uh-huh.
And it was the first time the Gorilla Glue was around. It was the first time that a lot of different cookies were around. And I had some of his key lime pie, and it was by far my favorite. Like, it stood out. It was a class above. And I definitely have a lot of respect for the dude.
Nice. Look forward, like I said. Cool. Well, let's see. What else we got from organizing big events? Come on. Think about
from organizing big events. I mean, I'm sure you got more going on than we do. What's I mean, it sounds like the music draw alone is going to be huge. That's kind of where all these go together. I wanted to ask, do you guys have camping on site, or what's the lodging situation like?
You can do camping on site. They can bring RVs. Not really camping, but you got RVs. They got hookups for people to come in.
Sure, that's
Camping's
cool.
a little rough. You can do it, but it's the wintertime. Really, the hotels are filled up for 30 miles. We've done all 350 of our hotels. You can't find a hotel for 20 miles on each side of the fairgrounds. So it's pretty rough right now to find a room. People are going all the way back to the city almost. But you can bring RVs. They do have it on site. And you can camp. The fairgrounds does do that on an individual basis.
So they have their own rates and stuff for that? Like you have to pay for it, or is it a...
Yeah, you can do it. I think it's about $40 or $50. You can come in, and they've got nice facilities there.
Right, if you can hook
They'll
up.
let them come in. Some do that. They like it.
Sure.
But like I said, most of it's hotels. And the good thing about that area is, you can get good hotels, and it's not $300 or $400 like the city.
Sure. And what are the hours of the event itself? Is it an all day thing, all day, all night, or just a daytime event?
Yeah, we're running from 11 o'clock till 1 o'clock on Saturday.
Okay.
And then we'll open the gates a little early on Sunday. I think it's 10:30. I might even open the gates earlier on Saturday too. Now, what happened was that we opened the gates a little bit last year, and last year, so what happened was we had people standing out in front smoking cannabis, and that wasn't a very good photo op. You had 100 people out in front burning, and they didn't like that at all. So we're opening the gates a little bit early before the show, so people can get in there. But Sunday ends at 9 o'clock. It's an early show. We got Beats Antique that'll come on and be done about 8:45, and then we'll have a bunch of after-hours parties, all over the place. So people will go well into the night.
Right on. It sounds like it's going to be a blast. I might try to figure out how to get that.
Mitch is missing it.
No, maybe not. Maybe yes. Maybe not.
I know. And the thing is, I have a rough.
Yeah, let me know, Adam.
What's that? Yeah. I'll I'll be there tomorrow morning, so I'll get there around 11 o'clock.
Yeah, let me know if you want to go to the after-hours party on Saturday night. They're going to do it at Annie O's, and
Saturday
they'll
for
have
sure.
one,
Saturday for sure. Sunday, I'm taking off at the Red Eye around 11:30. I got to go fly right to D.C. to go to that High Times Business Summit that's going on over there. So it's going to be like straight from the Emerald Cup. I mean, it's definitely. I wish I could go the other way around. I wish I could go to do the businessy thing first. And then
show up all burnt.
And then I'm gonna show up just looking like a wreck to the thing. Like, oh yeah, here comes Adam, and I'm supposed to be doing leading the cultivation table of people who are all gonna be suited up. Breakout group, all suited up, looking fresh. I will not look fresh. I can guarantee you. It's gonna be awesome though.
Yeah. We'll put you on a list for Saturday night to go there, and then if you come in, I think they're going to do a private party on Friday night with Absolute Extracts and CGA, where they're going to have pretty much a really incredible catered open bar thing with some great food and stuff.
Awesome.
We're a very limited private event, but I think we can get you into that one too if you want to come in. That's going to be Friday night, I think, from 8 to 12.
Sounds great. Yeah, no, definitely. Hook me up.
You're on the air then, no?
Oh, no, 8 to 12, I can't come. I'm on the air. But I'll talk about it. How's that? Yeah, no problem.
Private. What's the point? Do it from there.
Maybe we'll switch everything. No, we can't do that. We have a private chef. Same guy that catered our thing. So we're working it. But no, definitely we'll try to make as much as we can while we're there for the connections and stuff. See what we can do. What else we got? What else you got, Adam? You're going. Well,
you got any questions about it?
No. I mean, I think the event. I'm just looking forward. I love going to new things. That you kind of have your. I mean, I do know the fairgrounds a little bit, but at the same time, it was a different event, so it changes everything. And also, just going to look forward to seeing all these people that are going to be there because it definitely seems to be the who's who right now, and it's just going to be nice to report next week about this whole thing and
do the recap.
The recap, exactly. And see, hopefully, if I definitely. How has the CBD been for the last? How long have you been doing that category? Have you been doing it the whole time, or is this just a new category?
No, it came out about a few years ago. It's become. It was a challenging contest. First, we were just doing it as a flower contest, the best CBD, and then, of course, it's broken down into so many different aspects. So then we started doing the highest rated CBD. But then people have realized, of course, it's not really about all CBD. It's about a balance. And so we've had to break it up into 1-to-1 and 2-to-1s and whatnot. So it's been ever evolving in itself because
so you have all those
more
categories.
And more about that medicinal side. How do you break out the awards and stuff? So we've got more and more awards for the CBD. All of a sudden, I think, we have 4 or 5 categories with like three winners of each. So we're getting glass for all that. We've got almost $50,000 in glass prizes for this. So it's really, but the CBD is exceptional. Travis from Gorilla Farms won it last year with a 2-to-1, and it wasn't about an 18-to-1 CBD. Because, interesting enough, if you get judges testing 18-to-1, there's not much going on. They're not getting high. They're not feeling much.
Right.
And so it's really about what do these different medicines do for your pain for a 2-to-1 or a 1-to-1. And so even the judging has been challenging to figure out how do you judge that. How do you take that into account for all that? And so it's been wonderful to do. We brought in the folks from Care by Design, Martin and his partner Alan, and some of these other people, some of these really world-class people to help guide us. Jude Tillman from Dragonfly to really figure out, okay, how do we do this contest?
That's great. Do you have structured training for your judges? That's one thing that's always, in the competitions I've judged, I have, my method with my spreadsheets because I love spreadsheets and all that. But then someone's always in there and I'm always like, well, we're not really judging the same way. So do our scores mean the same thing? Is there any sort of calibration or training that the judges go through, or it's kind of like, here you go, 1 to 10, do the thing?
No. We've worked really hard over the years to come up with a system that works fine. And it's a top 50. The best score you can get is a 50. And you have a 1 to 10 point scoring system for smell, look, and taste. And then you've got, on the high, you've got a double score. So even though each of those gets weight, the score for the high does get a double score. So, most of the scores are coming in between 40 and 50. And then you take all 12 to 14 of those judges and combine all their scores. And that's how you get it down to a top 50. And then even with that, they go back and look, like last week, we took the top 75 out just to make sure that there was nothing in the 50 to 75 range that we missed. And then the judges go home with that, all the top 50, and then they score it again. And then that was done a couple days ago. And then they'll come back on Thursday and take their scores again from that and get the scores down to a top 20. But then they'll look from there on. It'll be a different contest of like, okay, what's 1 to 20?
Right.
And so they'll sit there. They'll start at 3 o'clock and probably not get done till 9 or 10 o'clock on Thursday night. That's why I'm not down at the fairgrounds. We'll be with the judges, making sure that they don't pass out and they get fed and get water and stuff so that they can keep going. And so it's a pretty serious. It's a very serious contest. The judges take it that way. We have buyers from Harborside and Peace and Medicine, the various HPRC, different collectives, different places come in and judge, and they know what they're doing, and they sit down and they come up with a top 10 and then a top 5 and then a top 3. And it's always interesting to see because until the very end, you're not really sure where it's going to go.
Yeah, once you get down to the really good, as soon as you look at it, usually you can say, okay, these ones are the top 10%. They're really standing out. During intake, you see the 10% you're really excited about. But as far as getting those in, like we do our own little cup, it's very small, but we just invite the competitors and everyone competes and it's head to head. And when it's coming in, you're just like, wow, some of these are real standouts, but which one's the best?
Yeah,
it gets down to so much nuance,
Yeah, and it's also the crowd. It's in a group situation is when things become clear because as an individual, you tend to get you get into your own little flavor funk almost, and people are like, I only like this, I only like that, and you can't really judge properly if you have a bias towards certain flavors. You kind of have to be accepting to the fact that some are fruity and some are not, and some have more of a like weird funky flavor, but they have an effect that might work, balances that out. Other times you love the flavor and there is no effect, you know what I mean? It's like but people smoke it anyway because they like the taste, and so kind of got to get around all those things. And in the end of the day, it's almost like when I tell people, if you just leave a bunch of weed out on a table and then come back and then whatever's empty is probably the best weed that you put out on the table. It was that easy, you know what I mean? People figured it out. They smoked that, don't really like that one though, and keep going back, and that jar is empty. As long as you had like a reasonable crowd of people that are got an idea of cannabis, you should have a pretty clear idea that that's the winner of your pheno hunt that you're doing at that particular time or whatever.
Yeah, it's challenging though. You get down like last year, we had Jackson in there with that black lime. We had the Sweet Serenade, which is that OG cross, and then we had a couple Skittles in there. And when we got down to that top 5 or 6, I think that the Skittles didn't make it because it's not quite as strong on the high. It's a great flavor and stuff, but it just couldn't quite compete with the high of the black lime or the Sweet Serenade. So it does come down to like, okay, even though people like some kind of a taste, it's still the contest is about the overall effect too. And so we really had that. We had a Purple Afghani a couple years back that I thought was just the absolute, by far the best winner in the cup. But it came in at number 3 because it just didn't have the look. The guy just hadn't picked the right buzz out or something. He hadn't really presented it well, and people just looked at it and said, it's knocked down so far on that look and whatnot. It's just having a hard time keep up with it, even though it was really, I thought, the best high. So the judges have to go for the overall package with, the high still weighting it in there. But when you get down to that top 10, it could go either way because they're all, as you'll see, Adam, they're phenomenal. That top 20 is like,
it's got
they're all, with the 16 could be an 8 easily. And then it just gets down to those judges looking at it and deciding where to go and how it falls. But, I'm proud of them. They do a good job. They don't get paid. They get free hotel rooms. We feed them well. They get perks here and there. But these judges are all doing it as a labor of love to be part of the show. And I'm really, like I said, grateful for what they do because, like I said, we don't make a lot of money on the show. So it's not like we can pay all of our judges big bucks to come in. And we have people that want to do it because they love it. And a lot of them don't come back the second or third year because it's so demanding to do that for 6 weeks straight. And then there's 5 or 6 of them that you're going to have to drag them out when they're on their deathbed. That's a problem.
Yeah, I bet. No, and it is that's a real proper, done event, obviously, because most of the time nobody's paid. Same situation. They're trying to rush.
You get your own hotel room, and you get your own.
Yeah, you do everything on your own, and you get a rush. You get a rush job because they give you 2 days to do everything, and you're just like, it doesn't really, those kind of things don't pan out in the long run because a lot of people put a lot of work into that stuff, and so it's totally a bad feeling if you get some cannabis that's is worth something, and people are already moved on to the next thing because the guy rolled it bad or something, you know what I mean? And it's like, really? Did you see how this thing doesn't smoke? I've seen people do that and like totally poo-poo one strain and put it on the side, and later when you go back, you're like, this stuff was pretty fire right here. I think this got rolled terrible. Look at the guy's joint rolling skills, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's also like, and because of the people are under time constraints, they're just trying to push through instead of enjoying it, which at the end of the day it becomes a full-time job. So it's like, well, this hard to enjoy a full-time job. It doesn't matter if you're smoking cannabis or not. You're like, this is a full-time job. You tricked me into this, didn't you? Because it's not as easy as people think. That's 100% sure.
Oh no, we get people that request to be celebrity judges or guest judges all the time, and when I outline the demands of it, most of the time they have to pass because you've got to come up for 4 or 5 judges meetings. You've got to spend a whole day with the judges 5 different times. Then you've got to go home and go through every one of those. And it's different when you're just, smoking something and letting your mind wander off.
Yeah.
You get high. You have to actually think every time about what it's doing to you. Is it a 9? Is it a 7? Is it this? And you do that hundreds of times. It becomes a job. And these judges really are. It's like, it starts getting to the point where, okay, this is really work. And then the people that come in and see that, it's like, well, it's a very demanding task. And that's why I said, I'm so grateful that these people do that because they're the ones that make it, really, are those judges. And to watch them be so serious and to take it with such reverence because they know that people's lives are going to, you win the cup, like Leo did, and all of a sudden your seeds are selling for $50 a seed. Or, your pounds are going for several $100s more. Or you get that recognition of, being the best. And so they're realizing that the difference between a first or second place, last year it could have gone either way with the Sweet Serenade or the Black Lime. And I had an old farmer up here, been up here forever, Joe, who won it. And I'm so glad that he did because he's put so many years, in a labor of love doing it. But then I knew that Jackson was number 2. And so I was sitting there watching this come down. The judges don't know any of this. They just have the strains.
Sure.
Because I'm part of the whole thing. I'm sitting there and I realize it's going to be Joe or Jackson. They're going to win this cup. And I'm trying to figure out which one I'm rooting for because I love them both. And it's like, wow, Joe's an old guy and it's nice to see him get his due, but Jackson rocks. And, they're sitting there debating that for an hour over which one's going to win.
Yeah, when it comes down to the final 2, it's always really cool. It becomes this intense moment of
there's always
really focused deliberation.
Real, everybody really on, everybody taking it seriously, hopefully, at that point. And then it's at our event, it was literally like silence for the moment. Everybody was just so waiting for the decision to be made on that final thing. And it was like, whoa, big deal. But it's awesome. And it's like, when you do know how much work's involved because you did it yourself, then you're totally, you see the crew, instantly you'll see the crew involved because you'll see everyone go nuts. And it's like, whoa, there's not just one guy, is it? It's 20 guys right there. And they're all winners. They're all going home. They're all, like you said, going to get a little bit more, hopefully, on their pounds, or they're going to get a little bit, they're going to be able to sell their seeds, or they're going to have they own a dispensary, or they're part of some other thing that's now going to become more successful. And the recognition for cannabis, sometimes it's a little ridiculous because we definitely there's way too many events going on and it's hard to keep up. So it's good to have a once a year mega event like that because then people do have a whole year to work towards it and there's no excuses with timing or anything. Whereas if you have 5 events a year, it's almost like you lose the luster, I think it's good to go for that once a year major thing because it takes a year to do almost any of these things
especially if you want to change it. You can do the same thing over and over, but if you want to make it grow and change it,
you guys got to and there's a recovery period. I'm sure you guys are super stoked when it's the weekend after or the week after, because I know that's after everybody's got their cars out of the mud or everything's finally gone, and everybody's taking care of all that crap. It's like, oh man, finally getting sleep for a week, straight. What do you do for recovery? You go somewhere good, or you take off, or you do anything?
I I get the top 50 and I go sit and smoke that. I usually stay pretty straight. I haven't been high for 90 days. I had to finish that book and all these businesses, so I haven't gotten high for about 90 days, and I won't smoke until I get off the stage on Sunday.
Wow.
Because there's so much to do. Well, we started 6 businesses. I finished a book. I ran $1.5 million show and got my 500-pound farm in. And, you know, I'm 58 years old. Getting up at 4 in the morning and going until 11 every night, it's rough, even doing meditation every day. So to stay focused and stuff, I get clear. But then I go out and do my own little judging. I love to take the top 20 and then do my own judging. And sometimes I agree with the judges and sometimes I don't. But it's a really fun process. So I go out to some place for a week and relax and just sit back and smoke the top 50 and reminisce with how it went and what the judges did and stuff. So it's really fun. We had a story a couple of years back with Sonoma County Collective and Asa, the guy putting on the VIP tents, as you'll see. He came in and entered the Cherry Cola strain he had, and it ended up winning number 2 and almost won number 1. And but what happened was...
Hello? Oh.
What happened was we went back and the judges were all leaving, and my guy, the intake guy, went and got his information so we could figure out what it was. And on that, he had admitted that he'd taken it inside for the last 3 weeks and finished it inside. Now, he wasn't lying about it. He just admitted that the rains came and he put it inside. And we had to disqualify him, and all the judges had left. And we're calling the judges to come back and stuff, and we had to change that around and do the whole thing because, you know, even though he was honest about it, we still had to disqualify him for what he'd done. And so we saw him at the cup and said, you know, Asa, we're really grateful you were honest. We're sorry we had to bring you out, and we really like it fair the next year and go after it. You there?
Yeah, we're still here.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next year he came back and won second place with that same strain.
Nice. So it was fulfilled.
Yeah, almost won the cup again. And now he's going to be running all of our VIP tents and stuff. And so you'll get to see that strain. He'll have some of that there, Adam. You got to check it out. It's another phenomenal strain.
I will definitely check.
Right on. Well, that brings us to about the 2.5 hour mark on the show. We're going to do another sponsor shout out. And then, of course, we want to bring you just back to wrap up, Tim, and shout out the book again, shout out the Emerald Cup, let people know where to get their tickets. So let's just do our sponsors, and we'll bring you right back and wrap the show. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. So we're going to start off with our number 1 sponsor. Has been with us since the beginning, and is repping out some of the best gear in Colorado. Guys from Way to Grow. 7 locations all over Colorado. They have one, I'm sure, near you or nearby. They're doing their light sale right now for LA. They're doing their LECs, and there we go.
The Merry and Bright Sun System LEC sale. The 315 watt, 120 volts, $439. The 240 volts, $419.
Could be $420. Should be.
Sure, maybe with tax. 630 watt, 120 volts, $765, and the 630 watt, 240 volts, $700. Great way to go. They're excellent lights. Sale ends December 31st, and of course, on anything in the store, if you use the code Adam Dunn Show, you're going to get 25% off. That's better than the commercial rates. You will not get ripped off at the Hydro store if you're on Team Adam Dunn Show. And of course, big shout out to Incredibles Edibles, Colorado's #1 edibles, soon to be in Vegas too. It sounds like. I got to try the pumpkin spice bar. Awesome. You got to try every one of the bars. I love the monkey bar.
The old school flavors.
The old school, bring it back.
Bring it back.
Bring it back to the monkey bar, the peach dream. The freeze dried fruit's just such a good way to go. It retains the flavor really well. The quality, the chocolate's great. And obviously, they pack a hell of a punch. They got that Mile Higher Mint up to 500 milligrams now, because I guess some people need that. Big shout out to Build a Soil, our favorite resource for anything to do with your organic soil, organic systems, whether you want to make your own compost tea, you want to have a worm farm, you want to grow cover crops, you want to grow alfalfa that you can put into your soil. Holler at Build a Soil. He is so rigorous about the quality and sourcing of everything. You really do know that you can count on Build the Soil to have the best. And if there's a great product that you know of that meets the standards and is organic, let him know about it. He'll look into it and he'll stock it. I've seen it happen a dozen times already. So you can check them out again, buildthesoil.com. Of course, big shout out to Dark Horse Genetics. You can go to jafarm.com.
Grab those last packs.
It's the online seed bank. You can grab the archive seeds packs. There's some Jaws gear in there. The Dark Horse Hoodlum hoodies, also a great way to go. Those things have like awesome, the best stash pocket array ever.
Of course.
If you've had
pocket.
Multiple, quarter pound, two.
What does that equal?
So
Half a pound.
the half-pound jacket you can get, and the jacket itself weighs like 12 pounds. It's a really heavy, nice. It's got the faux fur liner. Really nice jacket. You can get it right now at jawfarm.com. And of course, last shout out to marysnutritionals.com, Elite Cannabis Family. Again, they're our most trusted source for CBD. You're going up to see him today, Adam, right after the show?
Yep, gonna grab some medicine for our buddy Noah there.
Absolutely. You can find out more about Elite at elitecannabis.com. Or again, if you do know anyone who needs CBD, they don't know where to get it near them, they don't know growers, they've heard about it in magazines, they can just buy it at marysnutritionals.com. And with that, let's bring it back to Tim Blake. Tim, we want to thank you for being on the show, man. It's been a hell of a ride. We haven't done a single person like long interview like that in a long time, and you certainly impressed. The audience has loved it. We've loved every second of it, and we really do appreciate your time when you're so busy, man.
Yeah, well, nothing but respect for you guys. I love journalism and media and what you guys are doing with radio. I know a lot about your background, Adam, and I look forward to meeting you out here and making sure you get that judges pack and seeing what you think for your top 20.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm looking forward. I'm going to be hanging out with a good group of people, so I'm pretty sure we'll help you chisel a little bit of that knowledge off. But like I said, I'm just going to be humbled to be around such good growers. Can't wait.
So we'll get done with the event, and I'll try some of that top couple with you.
Awesome.
Tim, let's get you to plug. Where can people get tickets to the event? Are you sold out, or do you still have tickets?
Yeah, we have tickets. You can get them at Eventbrite. You can go there. You go to our website and get directed to Eventbrite for the links. You can still get them at the Mighty Quinn in Santa Rosa. A bunch of stores around Northern California that you can find on the website. And we'll have them day of the show for whatever's left. We sold out last year on Saturday. And we look like we'll do the same thing again this year. So tell them to get the tickets and come on down and join us. We'll have a great time.
And people can pick up the book on Amazon again, and that is Cannabis Crusader, Dancing with the Feds. I can't remember the third subtitle. You're going to have to tell me what the third subtitle.
The Cannabis Crusader. Of course, I forgot the first part there when I had it for a minute. Dancing with the Feds. Cannabis Crusader, Dancing with the Feds, the spiritual journey and the one man's lifelong dedication to his medicine.
And that is available on Amazon.com. Tim Blake, thank you very much for your time today. And I'm going to now try to figure out how to swing my way on out to the Emerald Cup.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you, Adam. Thanks a lot.
Look forward to it for sure.
And you too.
Take care.
And it looks like we may have lost video signal. Kind of perfect timing. Adam kicked it out.
I kicked it out.
Adam kicked it out. I don't know if the broadcast is... we're still broadcasting. Cool. Well, perfect timing on that. Got our sponsor shout out in. I don't know, Adam, what do you want to talk about for half an hour, bud? You want to talk about how I should go to Emerald Cup with you? Yeah. Camera's maybe going to come back here since Ryan left for the day. Hey, we're back. Nice, we figured it out. We can drive the ship.
I was like, what the heck is this cord for? Why is it on my foot?
Stupid cord.
Why is a stupid cord on my foot?
That's classic. That's good.
But we're back.
We're back. I missed that part of the show where Ryan brings us water.
Yes, dirty water from Ryan's house. Yeah. We'll just wrap it up. We got about 28 minutes. We can do it. We can jibber
You want
jabber.
to do the full 3? Okay.
We can jibber jabber for a little bit.
You're psyched now, yeah?
Extra psyched.
Extra psyched, right?
Yeah. No, because it's like now you see that it's. I mean, he's calm, considering he's putting together a 20,000 person event. He's got like 2 days to put it all down, but calm, cool, collective guy, and he's got a good. I mean, it's awesome to see that. It's all done from the heart, you know what I mean? That's the key to the whole doing cannabis-related events. Not about real events. Real events you can go in and money grub and, make $10 on a water and all that kind of vibe. But when it's cannabis-related, it's like you're trying to give.
You'll take care of people.
You're going, and some of these people just aren't socialites. Their idea of being social is when their trim crew comes around once every 2 months, you know what I mean? And that's about the only people that they hang out and deal with. And there's other people who are, at every single event and So it'll be a little bit of a combination of the two because it's definitely not like
it brings out both worlds. That's really what I love about it.
Yeah, and also it's bringing together people that I know who don't normally come to a lot of the events because they're too big, and this one's a big event too. But it sounds like they got a good VIP area, which another good reason to go for me. I'm like, hell yeah, I like that. I like the sound. Hey, give me that. Throw that crab down. That sounds good.
How many pounds of crab?
I'll be bringing back. I'll throw my back.
Yeah, you got a cooler?
Yeah, there we go. No, but it's. I didn't bring any weed back. I brought all the crab back.
Yeah. I pressed the weed into rosin and rolled it into the crab. Traded it for crab.
Traded it up for crab meat. No, it'll be, and also the organic food side. That sounds just
I'm excited,
phenomenal for me. I'm like, great, I get to eat good food.
Anything you want. Yeah, it's not the same falafels 3 days in a row.
Exactly. I was like, oh, I gotta get the same because by the third day you do know the whole menu pretty well on most of those things. So that sounds awesome. And then I can't wait to read the book too because that's going to be interesting too because it's going to be that story was pretty crazy. I mean, that won't be in the book. That's the beginning of the next book, so I've even got the inside scoop.
Yeah, that's a good preview
on how the ending is going to be. Where maybe it'll be like, it'd be nice to see if it actually really does end where
that begins.
You're like, oh man, don't go in.
No, Mike, that's the guy, Mike. No,
don't do it.
No, don't talk to Mike. No.
Don't talk to that guy. But that shows you the contrast of where we were just a short time ago and where we are now, and then and. It's like here with not having banking and people running around with hundreds of thousands of dollars in their car and having to be strapped or.
Yeah, but that's nothing like Mike.
No, I'm just saying. But they're trying to keep us there, right?
Sure.
They're making it really like almost worse because now you have a store that you're like going to walk out of. You know what I mean? Whereas back in the day, you were pretty much like you should just never talk to Mike in the first place. That was probably the best bet there. Because that's what I tell people. I'm like, the reality is a lot of times when it comes to like dealing with people in that level, gangsters or whatever, it's like it's never a good thing, because it's not the only good thing you think it's good if they like you. That's not good because what happens when they don't like you? You know what I mean? The minute that they're not liking you is when it all goes wrong. And it sounds like he was getting set up for years, or over a year.
The long con.
And that's like crazy stuff. That's psychopath stuff. So that if there's a little bit of that winged in there with some of his other
aliens,
we didn't even really. We talked a little bit.
We said UFOs. I didn't even say aliens.
Well, he said he's been dealing with
transcendental
UFOs
meditation
for
UFOs.
Years. Right.
It's I'm sure it's a wild ride.
Interesting.
And 317 pages, like not something that
we had to shorten it down.
Yeah, but obviously detailed story.
Yeah. So how was the chat room on that? I noticed they were going off on weird tangents about getting caught up in storms and stuff. I was like, what is going on? Like everybody's talking about the storms.
No, they liked it. They definitely loved it. 2 people messaged me on Facebook saying it's a great show. So
that's all that matters. Yeah. 2 people said.
Well, usually 0 people message me on Facebook during the show to tell me the show's great.
Oh,
so
that's good. No, and I mean I digged it because I like all the I like to hear other people's crazy stories because I know my own. Mine are weird, but
that's a great way to kill some time.
What? Me tell a story?
Crazy story.
I don't know though. What do you want to hear?
Do you have anything that crazy?
Oh no. Yeah, kind of. I mean, not that crazy though. But
whoa,
it was almost my reason for leaving Holland at one point. Like I think it was like in 1999 or something like that. I had this kid hanging out at the shop, and he was a Suriname kid, a little black kid, but he was like one of those people you felt sorry for because he just had like that real. He was real quiet. He came in, hung out a little bit, smoked weed with us. He had a huge scar on his face. Like kind of like, hey, nice kid. What's up with the gigantic scar?
How'd you get in a situation that involved a scar like that?
Huge. So, and he kind of told us some story when he was young, and it didn't sound too crazy or whatever. But he was around for maybe 6 months. We saw him, and then so like. Out of the blue one day, he asked me for some hash, if I got hash, and I'm like, nah, don't do that, you know what I mean? It's not my thing. And of course, I had a friend of mine came in. He's just like literally back from India for a week, so he's ready to slang, and he's just Mr. International.
Who needs the hash?
He's like, oh, don't worry, I got a place, And the thing about Holland is, hash is like it's such an interesting market because there's so much like bullshit crappy hash getting moved through Holland. They bring it and reprocess it and turn it into something else and export bunch of garbage, and so he knew one of these sort of houses where you go. It wasn't even a house, like a little business. It's classic because it's like still there, so I can't really give too many details.
Sure.
But it was like a business that was running as a business. And
Normal business in
yeah,
front.
yeah. But once you knew, you were like, oh, well, that makes a lot more sense. Because I was always wondering, like, it just looks nice, but not really. No one's ever really there, but then kind of. But anyway, so went there, and he picked up product for these guys, and we originally told the kid it was just him to come, and nobody else, just because we knew this kid, and so like, well, that's it. Kind of rules were set, and of course they had nowhere to bring it, so I was like, we're nowhere to exchange. So it was like he had just moved back from India, didn't want to do it in a hotel,
right?
Da 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 da. So I was like, oh, classic bad move. Like, oh, you can use my house.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a great idea, right? And I lived in a pretty nice house at that time. And it was one of those things where it was like the weird, like, old gothic-y looking building, and I lived in the top part with a little fucking tier. It's like literally the top. You had to go all the way up the fucking tiny stairs to get to the top. So he pulls up, he knocks on the door, classic Dutch style, where if you let him in, it's like you got to pull a rope, and then it opens the door downstairs. It's like even in the nicest houses, you got this little rope thing. So I open the door, and then I hear like 2 sets of footsteps. So I'm like, hey. I just said for you to come, right? And it was like right at that moment, everything started to kind of unravel in front of me, and it was just like slow motion. Everything was like, oh, are you fucking kidding me? Another guy comes up and he goes, no, I got the money, right? And he shows me like a stack of 500 notes, and they're purple. And they don't look right, you know what I mean? Right away, I'm just like, the fuck is that? You know what I mean? Like, so it's a bunch of counterfeit money.
Yeah.
And then he pulls out a Uzi, and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, he pulls out, so he's like, gets close enough to my door where I'm like leaning out the door, showing me the money, and he gets like within like distance enough that I'm like already like, holy fuck, like when I couldn't shut the door, wouldn't matter anyway because he's inside my hallway.
Right.
There's nobody else living in the building that would have been able to do anything, and so. I'm like, but I don't know, maybe the guns are not real or not. But Who goes? When you see a fake gun, whatever gun, and a guy ready to fucking with some counterfeit money, you're pretty much like, all right, this is not good. So my friend from India, who before...
The dude's from India, or came back
he's from East Coast somewhere. He's got dreads, you know what I mean? He's classic. He just came back from smoking like 5 billion chillums in fucking India. Yeah. And...
Getting all the diseases.
10 minutes before this guy shows up, he says to me, now this better not be a fucking setup. Not to me, but like these guys in general. If these guys try to rob us, I'm going to go. He's doing karate kicks in the fucking, in the living room, showing me all these moves he's going to do. And I'm like, okay, what else? Don't worry, it's not going to happen. Of course, naive me is like, don't worry, it's not going to happen. No guns or nothing to be pulled. So the minute that the Uzi comes out, another gun comes out too, but the minute that the Uzi came out, he fucking is like on the floor, and he doesn't even have gas to put on the floor.
No karate kicks.
No karate kicks. I look over, he's on the ground already, looking at me like I'm like, what do you do something, right? And I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do? And the guy's like, all right, where's all the money? And I'm like, the fuck you talking about, dude? I have all the hash. You gotta have the money. It was one of those classics where like, and I had a house which was really nice, but I didn't have much going on there because I was just like, I had like a decent couch, okay size, nothing crazy, nothing, not a lot of electronics, not a lot of
gold sitting around.
No, it wasn't like showered in gold or nothing. And I had like my bed upstairs and a few things, and I wasn't growing at the time because I just moved into this place. I was like planning my grow that I was going to try to do, which I never did there. But in general, they looked around. It was kind of like there was some furniture that was left there from the people too. So it was kind of like this really fucking trashy looking. I don't know, it just looked weird. And the guys were like, "Where's all the money? Where's all the money?" And I'm like, "Dude, I got no money." And they took all the hash, obviously. And he fucking put the gun in my face and made me lay down on the ground and count to fucking whatever, some bullshit. You know what I mean? And it was like they just took off, right? So they took off, and we could see them. We got up right away, but they were already like our stairs were super steep, so they can pretty much jump down the stairs. They got in their car, took off in a Mercedes, and we saw them like taking off. And so like then of course my friend's all instant ninja. I would have done this and I would have done that. But it was like total PTSD kind of situation for me too, because I didn't think about it when it was all going down. I did. I mean, I was scared, but I wasn't as scared as he was, because he was already scared before the fucking thing. Like, I was scared, and I kind of was thinking that it might be fake guns, and it seemed all weird to me and bizarre. But then next day, I fucking was like, oh my god, yeah. I couldn't even like think. I was like, my brain was just like, you could have died, you know, and it could have been fake, who knows. But then I put the word out, because I knew a Suriname bouncer who was pretty much like knew everybody, you know.
Sure,
town
not a
small.
huge Suriname Dutch community. Right?
It is huge. It's a huge. But I mean,
small city. It's
small city.
Huge, yeah,
huge for like the number.
Sure, huge percentage. Yeah, yeah.
So and they committed a lot of crimes, and they carried a lot of guns, and they had. So right away he put the word out. He found out that there were some kids trying to sell some hash at the bunch of different shops for like $1 a gram, and it was like, you know, $3.50 a gram normally or something like that. So. Yeah. And I was like one step behind him every fucking time. Like, I was trying to find. I was like, oh, where the fuck did they really? You know. And then they would kind of come, and I was like, then I realized.
Wait, what would you have done if you caught them?
Exactly. Then I was like, well, now wait a minute. If I find them, now I'm going to get even.
I'll probably still have a gun.
and then it turns out they ended up getting busted. Not with my hash or with the hash necessarily. They were in a dispenser, well, not a dispenser, a coffee shop. That when the cops came there was a loaded weapon behind the bar, and then on a couple people there. And that's like, you know, in Holland, guns are not way, you can't get a license for. You can get a hunting license, and you could like go out of town and go hunting and all that kind of stuff, but you can't get a handgun.
You can't have a handgun.
No, and even firearms, you don't see them very often. I think they have to lock them up somewhere, and you can go to the firing range and fire them there, and you can't take them home, that type of thing. So it was definitely like, I was like, and then the crazy part though is that, you know, it just instantly showed you the dark side of where you lived, you know what I mean? And I was like, that's when I wanted to move to Canada. I was like technically thinking like, maybe I should move to Vancouver and start up over there. It seems like that's going to be the next big legal place, because it seemed like that moment around 99, I think it was around 99 that happened. And then that was like kind of like Canada was on the edge of being more legal than well, definitely more than America. America wasn't even point, yeah. America was only in California medical, and there was still like, it ain't gonna last type vibe. It's only been happening for 5 years, and people weren't taking it seriously in places like here and a lot of other places. They were just like watching Cali, not really go anywhere. You know what I mean? Just gonna stay like dudes on the fucking Venice.
Open up, get shut down.
Yeah, Venice Boardwalk, dressed up in green suits with signs and stuff, like all that, like that look. But it definitely showed me like, ooh, this town could be really evil, and everything's connected. And you just sort of, once you uncover the veil of that kind of weirdness, it scared the fuck out of me. I mean, move out of that house, because I just felt like now that house is going to be like turned into like, oh, go break into this dude's house, you know, that kind of. Because once they know where you live
and who you are,
what you're doing. Oh, this guy's gonna have weed. We stole about 20 pounds of hash from him, so we'll have good chance he'll have more. You know what I mean? That type of thing. I was like, I gotta move, and I ended up having to pay all that money back to those people. It was a fucking nightmare.
Sucks.
My ending. The guy
no
from
insurance.
Didn't do nothing. No, didn't do dick. He jumped on the ground and cried like a baby. And
wait, wasn't it his hash?
No, it was nobody's hash, because he got it from the place.
From India.
No, he got it from the shop.
He
got it from the place. Right. It wasn't from the shop. It was from
from the mixer. Yeah,
from the dude. And then that guy, hooked him up.
Is that dude like a scary guy?
Who do you mean scary guy?
The guy, not the guy who he owed the money to.
Well, yeah, classic Dutch gangster style, where it was kind of like,
he's a butcher.
I had to sit down with the guy. No, I wasn't a butcher, but I had to sit down with the guy a bunch of times and explain the situation. Yeah, we got robbed. And it wasn't like they were going to come out and help me out when I got robbed. Like, oh, yeah, we got a guy. I'll come. Nothing. None of that. It was just like, oh, good. Well, we will knock off the 10 cents that I would have made. You know what I mean? It's like, great. So I got to pay 20,000, fucking euros or whatever it was. And I was just like, ugh. So it was the classic. It was a classic learning lesson from my part. Don't ever try to help people out like that when you think. And I would have made like $5,000. That was like the whole deal. I was like, okay.
All you got to do is put up for my house.
All I have to do is just let people come to my house, and it's all going to be great.
It's kind of like Pulp Fiction.
And it didn't go right. Yeah. And guns got drawn. And that was the only time I really got robbed like that with guns and stuff. And it wasn't fun, but in the end, nobody really got hurt. Except
that's weird. I heard it was fun. I mean, it's so weird that you said it wasn't fun.
I know. You'd think it'd be fun. But no, it's definitely not. It's not a good feeling. And it's also one of those sides of and that's what we hope this whole industry kind of goes away from. And, you don't hear, you don't have that side to worry about as much. You just have to worry about your driving skills and whatever else, you know what I mean, to get from point A to point B.
Yes, sir. All right. We're at 248.
248. Sounds good. Like, any other little stories for you? You get robbed? You ever get robbed?
Never got. I've gotten burgled.
Burgled? Like the Hamburglar came and took your burgers? Or
like
what?
Mystery. Don't understand how anyone got in that. Don't know who it
Where?
was.
Here?
No, in New Jersey.
Oh, in Jersey. Oh, that happens all the time, right? You have cat burglars there? Guys ride around with, like, little masks on.
Exactly.
And bags. A little bag and a
They have a
mask.
bag and a striped shirt.
Striped shirt.
You gotta watch out for them. No,
Yeah.
dude. I mean, I have my theories, but I don't know.
Would you live in an apartment or a house?
House, my parents'
Oh,
house.
see,
dude.
a house.
It's my parents' house.
Everyone leaves sliding doors open and stuff.
Nuh-uh.
No?
We went away on vacation.
Oh, well, then that's it. You gotta get about it.
Everything was locked.
Burglarized.
Nothing was disturbed. Everything was just missing when we got back. It was real weird. But,
Yeah.
Jersey style.
Jersey style.
Inside job
What'd
for
they
sure.
What'd they take? Weed? Money?
Weed and things.
Weed and things.
And money.
Weed and money. How much money?
And things.
A lot of money.
I
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
It was it was like
You're slanging dollars. It
first
was like a
real-
dollar ball rolled up dollar bills that
no,
were
it
all
was
like
a cigar box full of money, of course.
Of course, cigars.
Yeah, it wasn't quite a shoebox though. That's what I'm saying. It was early on.
And they weren't banded tight.
No,
they were just loose.
No, they were packed in there. It was a bunch
Packed?
of money. Yeah.
Wow, bam! You were slanging it.
Slime and a hockey puck of opium was the
Opium. Jesus Christ, that's crazy.
crazy.
That's what happens then. You get burglarized by like little Iranian dudes or something. It must have been.
We have our theories.
Really?
Yes.
You have your theories. Well, that sucks. See, the thing is, I think I've probably been robbed a bunch of times, just never noticed it because
Yeah.
I have a bunch of crap.
Here's
in it.
one incredible. Someone had broken into the warehouse, obviously snooped around, didn't take anything, but opened a file cabinet and took just
file.
a file cabinet, and there was
Yeah.
a jar of weed in the cabinet. They clearly looked all over the place.
Jesus.
The jar of weed disappeared, but then we figured it out it was a break-in, but they broke in and only took a jar of weed, and you wouldn't know
That's
unless you went to smoke
ridiculous.
that jar.
Yeah. And you're like, huh, and you never know.
Yeah.
Did you see the guy who had the girl living in his place and he never knew about it?
No, those things aren't real, are
There was
they?
one real one. It was pretty dope, and the guy couldn't figure it out because he kept missing food and stuff, and then she like came crawling out of the fucking attic thing, and it was like they had it all on video.
Total tweaker.
Totally, yeah, of course. And she was like living in his attic. It was like that's scary, some scary shit. Like every
That's
night
real
when he went to
scary.
bed, she'd go in and go into his fucking fridge and take out food and stuff. It was like what?
That's scary.
Then
man.
there was a fake one in that Walmart thing.
yeah,
You
the
said that
Walmart
was
one.
fake.
That one I saw. Yeah, yeah.
Good photos,
Yeah.
but terrible story. Like it was like what? No way. And then you read it and you're like, they don't even have an attic. Like those places are just straight to the ceiling. You know?
All right, do the shouts.
Shout outs.
Shout-outs.
Okay, we only got two of us. Well, let's do shout outs for the kid. Shout out to his mom.
Mom,
Shout out to
Britt,
Britt,
Dogs.
the dogs.
everybody down at Dark Horse,
Yeah,
Tanner,
yeah,
Colin.
and Yerba Mates.
Shout out to your Mate.
Yeah, and
Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Shout out to Always Sunny.
Sonny. Exactly, you got it. You covered it.
Shout
That was it.
out
You covered it all.
to,
That was pretty much it.
cheesesteak,
Yeah, I think you got that one.
heavy
You did feel-
metal, and white reggae. Well, like sort of
Does
metal-ish.
he do metal? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he does. Remember we did the music episode and it was all Upon a Burning Body?
Yeah, but that's not metal, dude.
Well, it's that kind of metal,
Okay.
not what we consider.
Kid style.
Yeah.
Kiddie metal.
Good.
Shout out to my beautiful wife who's down in Boulder with little Nick and hanging out with Mitra right now. So
Nice.
gonna go pick them up. And shout out to Ace down at the farm. Shout out to Anthony down at the farm helping out. Charo, all the guys helping out with down there, building up some walls, making some things a little bit more airtight and a little bit more winter-proofed. What else? Shout out to all my homies out there in Rhode Island who listen, I know, at the Tetrahydro Club, which is getting in the papers every week now for building code violations and bullshit that they try to hit them up with. Oh, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. But shout out to those guys, to Tim and everybody. Shout out to Mr. Wallace also, Pumpkin Master.
Yeah, Pumpkin Master Ron Wallace.
Hopefully he's listening to our show more often now because my other friend's been working with him a little bit, just trying to like help him out, you know, give him some pointers, and I think he's going to make the step. I think he's going to help out a guy grow his 12 legal plants and do it all, you know. And
12 giant weed plants.
well, I told him if he could do a 10-pound indoor plant, we would definitely hold the record, I think, at that point. 10-pound flowered.
Yeah.
A dry weight plant indoors.
I've seen claims.
10-pound one plant indoors.
Yeah, well, you have
outdoors. I've seen for sure, but I think 10 pounds is a good number.
One
to set.
plant. I mean, if you
could do 1 pound, if you could do one plant, 10 pounds
under one light. Or
no, there's no light limitation. You can't do that. I have to say 10 lights, or something like that, because you're going to lose so much per light. You're not going to get a gram per watt on one plant because just can't get it. You know what I mean? It's going to be almost impossible.
What if you grew like a 75-pound outdoor plant?
That would be awesome too.
That would be cooler, right?
That would be even cooler, of course. Anything bigger is cooler.
Yeah, bigger is
cooler. But indoors, I mean, they'd just be a good test ground for them to test their theory because they have some great soil. Of course, he's like my friend's he's seen the binder, dude. He said the binder's ridiculous.
He's got the recipe.
He's got 300 million micro recipes that are just. He's like, he's got it all. It's in there. So, shout out to you guys. Hopefully, we'll cross paths in the giant pumpkin world too.
Yeah.
Boom.
Of course, shout out to my beautiful wife Reese and little Farron, who are sitting out in the parking lot. I can't see them, but they're waiting to pick me up.
They're out in the parking lot.
Apparently, I got a text message saying they're here.
They're here.
They're here. And shout out to Chat Gang. All the Jersey guys in Chat Gang. Hey guys,
Jersey Guy Chat Gang.
Yeah, Jersey Guy Chat Gang. We're huge on the East Coast.
Really.
Nice
one, sir.
Oh boy.
Emerald Cup.
Boy. Shout out to Emerald Cup.
Yes.
I'm probably not going to make it really, but
no,
it would be nice.
It would be. I mean, now we got Mega Show too. 2 shows in a row. Mega shows. I need you.
I know it's going to be fucking awesome.
I need you.
I know. We'll figure it out.
And there's no DC for you either.
We'll figure it out.
Man.
All right. We will catch you guys. Same bat time.
Happy
same
Hanukkah
bat
to Mitch from
next week.
Mike.
Thanks. Happy Hanukkah. Someone asked if we're doing a Christmas special. I wish we could. I'm not going to be here. Adam probably will. Maybe we'll both put on sweaters and jump on Skype or something.
Could do ugly sweater night or something like that.
So we'll do something.
Yeah. When are you leaving? You'll be gone early before.
I'm leaving Christmas Eve, actually.
What day is our show?
Our show.
That's
a question.
There's a major question because it wouldn't matter. If
our show is... Oh, wait, Christmas. The day before Christmas Eve. So we'll do a Christmas episode, but we won't do anything. They were asking if we were doing like a Halloween special.
On the day? No, we can't do the day of because we're not going to be at the same place. Yeah. We'll just never work. But we'll definitely do that 30th, the 30th
nope,
show.
23rd.
No,
well, then we'll do the 30th.
Yeah,
sure,
23rd.
Yeah.
Sorry, 23rd.
Yep. All right, guys. We'll catch you next week. I don't know how to play the music, but I will end the broadcast. Of course, 111 of you have joined the Facebook group. Keep joining it.
Keep joining.
And for people who have friends who are asking about the podcast, obviously, if you only listen on podcast, you're not hearing this. But if you have homies who have been asking, I have been working with a developer. By January, that shit will all be automated. All the podcasts will be up to date, and the new ones will be automatically getting up there and posted. We'll catch you guys next week. Have a good one.
Peace.